So it was like a secret thing on the records? Or was it like, no, everybody was like...
beef. Terror Squad and Roc-A-Fella always had beef.
But there was a situation where Jay went out the wrong way in the club in the back, and then they hit him with a bottle.
We got surrounded by 90 of them the other day.
Fat Joe made his presence known, which he always does.
2 hours. Who the is off, man? Tired of these ready. And I knew they was scared to come. I told y'all.
This is war.
During the late 90s, two of the biggest and most respected rap groups in New York clashed at the top, after a brewing conflict that started off as friendly competition turned into hateful and aggressive altercations that went beyond just a regular rap beef on records. New York, the mecca and birthplace of hip-hop, is a battleground for MCs to put their skills to a test. The nature of hip-hop has always been competitive. Every MC from New York, especially in the 90s, had the drive and ambition to aim for the top and to become the king of New York. The best, the highest selling, most respected, most influential, impactful and important MC of all time. And that's basically what this whole beef was about. Competition and respect. Who has the best clique? Who is the dawn of New York and hip-hop? The realest, the most successful, the best and most respected. The story begins in 1995 when Big Pun made his commercial debut on the song Watch Out of Fat Joe's second album Jealous One's Envy. At this point, Pun already had an underground group called Full Eclipse with Lyrical Assassin, who later changed his name to Cuban Link, Joker Jams, who later became Triple Seis, and Tomb. Pun began writing lyrics in the late 80s and started with the rap name Big Moon Dog. The original members of the Terror Squad were Fat Joe, Keith Nutt and Armageddon. But things took off once Pun entered the scene. Back then it took way longer to blow up and to become successful. Everyone had to wait for their turn. At this point in time, Fat Joe was one of the most respected MCs in the Bronx. And just like every up-and-coming MC from New York, he wanted the crown for himself. On June 25th, 1996, it was Jay-Z's turn to shine. He released his debut album Reasonable Doubt, which most rap fans consider a classic today. The album debuted at number 23 and wasn't an immediate success. He wasn't one of the highest selling New York MCs yet. Like, he was still behind the Notorious B.I.G., Nas, Raekwon, Ghostface Killah and other highly respected artists who were all bigger than Jay at that point. Reasonable Doubt sold around 420,000 copies in the first year, which means he outsold Fat Joe with a quote-unquote poorly performing album. Cause Fat Joe's projects Represent and Jealous One's Envy only charted at number 82 and number 71 on Billboard. Didn't receive any certifications. Reasonable Doubt, on the other hand, reached platinum a decade later. So Jay was more successful than him right from the get-go. And of course Joe had a problem with that, cause he felt like Jay wasn't real. That he was lying and making up stories in his raps, pretending to live the life of a drug dealer and gangster even though he can't understand or relate to it. Authenticity was one of the most important things in hip-hop. Fat Joe thought that Jay was rapping about his life and his past. The life of Joey Crack, Don Cartagena. Cause if you listen to Jay-Z's earliest records, the Hawaiian Sophie and Originators joints with Jaz-O in 1989, Jay didn't look or sound like your average drug dealer, even though that was supposed to be the time where he was selling crack. Back then he looked more like a goofy and insecure nerd who's trying to act cool. And his rhyme style was different too back then. He was using the triplet flow just like Jaz-O, rapping faster than anyone else and definitely not about street life or dealing drugs. If you listen to the song Dead Presidents off the album Reasonable Doubt, you can hear him rap about having made enough money in '88 from selling crack.
I dabbled in crazy way without rap, I was crazy straight. Partner, I'm still spending money from '88.
Then you look back at all the music videos he released and get a completely different picture of him. Even in the early 90s when he was rapping with Original Flavor on Can I Get Open, or on Big Daddy Kane's Show and Prove in 1994, he sure as hell didn't rap about drugs or like other mafioso rappers at that time. You can't deny that he switched up his style and subject matter and reshaped his whole image by the time he made his debut album in 1996. His mafioso style definitely came with Reasonable Doubt, and Joe wasn't the only one who had noticed that sudden change. This has been a topic on numerous Jay-Z diss records, like from Tupac and Nas for example. People to this day still have debates on whether or not Jay was lying about his life story and him being this drug-dealing mafia boss. The sudden change became noticeable not only in his music, the way he acts or behaves, but also the way he dressed and presented himself to the public. On album covers and music videos, for example. On the cover of Reasonable Doubt, you can see him wear a tailor-made suit and a tie, which he normally didn't wear. There weren't too many rappers who were dressing like that back then. Fat Joe didn't really understand where Jay-Z's mafioso style came from, and thought that he was copying him, even though he's soft, fake and weak basically. Joe didn't buy it, got upset and a little bit jealous of him for becoming way more successful with quote-unquote faking than Joe did with being real and authentic.
The real story is that Joe never liked Jay-Z. Now, he loved Jay-Z though as an artist, but he wasn't more of a respectable, like respect towards Jay-Z. It was more like, look at this, he ain't do shit that I've done. He living my life, he saved my life. It was more of that with Joe. So he never liked Jay-Z as a person, but he loved the way he rhymed and everything, and what he spit. Just something like he wished he was Jay-Z to a point, but knowing that he felt like he did, like he's that real drug dealer. Like, that's how Joe felt. That's why he didn't like Jay-Z. Pun loved me and Pun loved Jay-Z. But Pun was, you know, of course, we loyal. And if this crew is what it is, this is what we rocking with. You know, we have to take some hits sometimes regardless. Yeah, and we rocking with the crew.
I hear you.
So, you know, Pun is more of a soldier in that situation. You know what I'm saying? He was more of a soldier.
Another thing that caught his attention was the song Bring It On of Reasonable Doubt, which sampled Fat Joe's vocals on D&D All-Stars 1-2 Passage from 1995. And this probably confirmed Fat Joe's assumption that Jay was watching and learning from him. Their whole gangster style, rapping about drugs, mafia bosses and a life of crime. Fat Joe didn't know what to make of it. At first he didn't really take him serious and thought that he was just a small fry. The biggest rappers on the East Coast at the time were Nas and the Notorious B.I.G. Those were the ones competing for the King of New York title. I made a whole documentary for this, which you should definitely check out. Fat Joe was cool with both, but he didn't really have the same level of respect for Jay-Z, who started to take over the game once Biggie passed, in 1997, when Jay-Z was already working on his sophomore project In My Lifetime Volume 1, which, just like Reasonable Doubt, wasn't an immediate success. It sold 138,000 copies in the first week, and it took about a year and a half for it to go platinum. He had a song on the album called The City Is Mine, to which Nas, Pun and Fat Joe of course took offense to.
And I let the world know that the city is mine.
Another thing that rubbed Joe the wrong way was the song Where I'm From, on the same album. This one uses the same sample as Fat Joe's Bad Bad Man off the album Represent in 1993.
Bad Joe, aka the fat gangster. I'm no joke and I'm far from a prankster.
I'm from with pull your card and argue all day about who's the best MCs, Biggie, Jay-Z and Nas.
The song Where I'm From showed Joe that Jay could make a better, more popular, more relevant, game-changing and more successful record with the same beats, while talking all that gangster talk and claiming the crown for himself. Like, look, I'm taking your beats, get the credit and will be remembered for it. I'm the one that's up there with Nas and Big, not you. I'll take whatever I want from you and be more successful with it. Your style, your beats, your subject matter, it's all mine and all you can do is be miserable about it. That's basically how Joe took it. But he also knew that Jay-Z's record Where I'm From was the superior song. And he convinced the whole Terror Squad, especially the hothead Big Pun, that Jay-Z is a phony, a biter and the enemy. Pun had that always in the back of his head. He's biting Joe and I have to show loyalty to my big brother. I'll battle anyone who has a problem with him.
Pun's beef with Jay was never personal. It was more of what Joe was implicating and putting in his head. It was more jealousy towards Jay. It wasn't even real where, you know, they had a situation, Jay did him dirty. It was just like Joe felt like Jay was telling everybody his story, like Joe's story, that he was that real and Jay was fake.
People have always said that Joe can be jealous at times, create problems out of nowhere and become frustrated by seeing everyone but himself succeed. When these two met, they showed love and respect for each other. But Joe was still holding a grudge against him for reasons that Jay wasn't aware of. He made himself an enemy without even knowing. And Joe was basically fighting Jay's shadow for the next few years. Deep inside, he admired Jay and knew that he was a dope MC. But Jay wasn't someone he took serious on a street level. Joe thought he was telling fairy tales, and deep inside it just hurt his soul to look up to a quote-unquote faker who was always one step ahead of him on his way to the top. Just like most rappers from New York, he wanted the #1 spot for himself. #1 in terms of gangster, mafioso, drug and street rap. He wanted to be the face of everything. The guy who runs New York. The first Puerto Rican rapper to go platinum. Either him or Pun. That was the goal. And he had a whole team of artists that were ready to take over the game. The Terror Squad. Consisting of the members Fat Joe, Big Pun, Cuban Link, Triple Seis, Prospect, Armageddon and Tony Sunshine. Pun finally drops his long-awaited debut album, Capital Punishment, on October 28, 1998. And it immediately becomes a huge success. In less than 3 months, the album went platinum. He was the first solo Latin hip-hop artist to go platinum. Became even more successful than Fat Joe, who was actually the veteran of the group. Big Pun had exceeded him and was even more successful than Jay-Z with his 2 previous albums that hadn't received any certifications yet. Fat Joe felt a sense of relief. He now had a super lyrical, highly respected, legendary platinum artist on his label, Terror Squad Productions. He became Fat Joe's highly capable and respected soldier, who was feared by everyone. Every beef that Fat Joe had, Pun would take it onto himself. He was very loyal, and his team meant everything for him. Pun and Joe became close like twins, and got the support from all the Latinos. Not only from regular hip-hop heads or Latin gangs, but also from mainstream music listeners. Cause Pun had highly commercial radio hits as well. He had fans everywhere. People started comparing him to Biggie, and it seemed like he had a bright future ahead of him. He even claimed the title King of New York for himself, just like Jay-Z did on his last album, Volume 1.
And I let the world know that the city is mine.
I set him on fire, retire your chain of thought, drain a quart of blood out your brain, and leave you insane in the dark, the king of New York.
At one point, the Roc-A-Fella clique was supposed to perform together with the Terror Squad at an old nightclub called Carbon, 610 West 56th Street, New York, Manhattan. They redecorated and reopened the venue under the name Terminal 5, because it was closed by the Drug Enforcement Administration in 2003. It's a multi-level event site with 5 distinct room environments and a capacity of 3,000 people. There's a big hall with a stage on the ground floor where artists would perform, and multiple bars serving alcoholic beverages and snacks. On both sides you had the VIP sections on the upper floors. The Roc-A-Fella clique and the Terror Squad had their own rooms and seats reserved upstairs but separated from each other.
Memphis Bleek was there, the whole Roc-A-Fella was there. You know, and it was love. It was all in the VIP, it was love. It was gonna wait till Jay-Z come out. I thought that was gonna be like a nice little, come together.
That night, various artists were supposed to perform, including Big Pun, Fat Joe, Cuban Link, Memphis Bleek and Jay-Z, who was booked by a Terror Squad associate for $15,000. Which might not seem like a lot of money to you, knowing how much rappers make these days for a single performance, and knowing how rich Jay-Z is today. But back then it was a lot of money for everybody, except Jay-Z of course, who always had relatively high booking fees. The whole Roc-A-Fella army was there except for Jay-Z, who either left early on without performing or didn't show up at all, cause Jay-Z never intended to perform that night. There was some type of misunderstanding during the negotiation process.
Jay-Z being there? I don't recall him being there. But I was always, I was by the bar anyway, so maybe he was there and he exited early. But I didn't see him in there, but he was supposed to perform.
The people who managed the club and the Terror Squad associate thought that he would perform there on stage for $15K, but it turns out that $15K was only his appearance fee. He expected more money to actually go on stage and rap. Felt like him just being there is already worth $15,000, and he wanted the money up front, but he never received it. Some people say he was actually in the club in a separate room sleeping, but that was never confirmed by anybody I consider a reliable source. So everybody was waiting for Jay to come out and perform. It would have been a great way for both camps to come together and to strengthen their relationships. But Jay wasn't there. The Roc-A-Fella clique was in the VIP section partying on their own, and everyone else got mad at them for basically ruining the night. Cause they were all waiting. People stopped dancing and started getting bored, wondering when Jay-Z will finally come on stage.
For some reason, Jay-Z ended up welching, not coming out or saying, yo, it's too little for money.
The Terror Squad associates who booked Jay then went to the Roc-A-Fella team in the VIP section and spoke to Memphis Bleek. Asked him where's boss is and why he ain't performing. And then all of a sudden it turned into a heated argument.
Next thing you know, what happened in that room, all I know later on, it was like Memphis Bleek and his peoples hit with a bottle on his head.
The associate got hit with a bottle of champagne by one of Jay-Z's people. He didn't see where it came from or who it was. Some say it was Memphis Bleek who hit him on the head when he was turning around. Others say it was just a regular street dude who surprised him from behind. So the guy from Terror Squad was now on the floor bleeding, and everybody from Jay's camp was laughing at him and enjoying themselves. The guy then stood up and ran to his homies in the other VIP section. The Terror Squad and their associates were chilling and having a good time. Nobody expected what was about to happen.
So now the Terror Squad associate comes and he walks back to the VIP where we all at, bleeding. He said, yo, twin, they flipped on me. Once that happened, it was a wrap. Big
Pun pulled out a Rambo knife and him and his whole entourage stood up and attacked the Roc-A-Fella clique. It all resulted in a huge brawl. Cuban Link was throwing bottles and glasses and Pun used his weight to his advantage, tackling multiple people and knocking them to the ground. Some saw him hitting people with champagne bottles. And that's probably where the rumor about Jay came from.
We both in the VIP, so now we flipping on, you know, he pull out a Rambo knife. I'm on top of the bar flinging bottles, is swinging, you know, R&S is beating up over there. So we just started just wilding because we seen that. We actually seen one of our people bleeding and them saying it was one of them. So at the end of the day, we went at it. Like me, Pun, everybody, we went at it with the Roc-A-Fella at the time, you know. At the time, it was, you know, he got beat up. He got chased out of the fucking VIP and whatever. Jay-Z wasn't there. You know what I'm saying? But we definitely didn't lose nothing that day. Just put it like that. Got chased the fuck out of it. Bleek was in there, and the whole like Roc-A-Fella, the street, and other artists. But I don't know, like Beanie and them. I don't know at that time if we was there or not. But I know we got busy. We got busy to the point that they all exited the side door and left. And some of us were still chasing.
There are some wild stories going around, like for example Jay-Z buying every drink at the bar so that the Terror Squad had nothing to drink, and them throwing bottles at him so that he had to leave the club. Or another rumor in which Jay allegedly ran around smacking people with a knot of money for fun, and then Pun getting mad at him and hitting him on the head with a Moet bottle. Noriega, another rap legend, confirmed this rumor when he appeared on Tax Stone's podcast Tax Season about 7 years ago.
Pun, man, I always wanted to know, man. Is it true that Pun story hitting Jay with the bottle?
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry. Yes, absolutely. I think they were beefing off of who was closing. I don't remember, but I remember I think Hov and them had brought like 80 to the spot, and Slime and them was like 8 or 10 or maybe 12 deep, and it just took the fan. And from what I heard, because I wasn't there, Pun was football tackling all of them niggas. Like Pun was tackling them niggas, and he was hitting in the head with a bottle, from what I heard. And Joe and Jay still hasn't got over that. Roc-A-Fella niggas was hitting niggas in the head with bottles too. Yeah. Them niggas was wilding. Them niggas was out there wilding.
But Nori wasn't there that night. He probably just heard rumors about it or had a conversation with one of the members of the Terror Squad, maybe even with Pun himself. Cause Pun and Nori were very close back then. Nori was featured on the song You Came Up off the album Capital Punishment. Even appeared in the music video. And Pun was on Nori's Banned from TV off his self-titled album the same year. It's one of the illest posse cuts ever. It had Nature, Pun, Cameron, Jadakiss, Styles P, and of course Noriega on it. Crazy record. Even had a music video. And Pun had a line on there that people to this day use as confirmation for him hitting Jay-Z with a bottle during that club scuffle in Carbon.
Champagne on the rocks, spawn to Fort Knox, Lazarus, shark salad with carrots, pork chops and applesauce.
Champagne on the rocks could be a double entendre, not only to reference Pun's favorite drink, an icy glass of champagne, but also rocks, as in people from Roc-A-Fella, hitting the Roc-A-Fella clique with champagne bottles. At least that's what people have been speculating ever since that song dropped. Even people close to Pun believed that it was true, like Nori for example, Even a decade and a half later, he was still convinced that it went down like that. Jay-Z actually called him after he did that podcast episode to correct him and to ask him to tell the story differently next time. Nori actually hung up on him because he thought somebody was prank calling him and making a Jay-Z impression. He thought the real Jay-Z wouldn't even worry about that. But then when he called the second time, he was convinced and asked Jay how he can fix it.
I was like, you can't care about this. And he was like, nah, I don't care. I care about you knowing. So I said, how do we fix this? He said, nah, we don't need to fix it. But if the interview ever comes up again, I locked the number in, I'm never using it.
Jay-Z actually addressed these rumors on record in the year 2007, when he appeared in the intro of True Life's mixtape True York.
For instance, tell you that hoe got hit in the head with a bottle, either somebody lying to him or he lying to y'all.
Now, Jay-Z wasn't the only one who shut those rumors down. Big Pun's widow and his close friend Cuban Link, who was there that night, denied it in multiple interviews.
So this story, about Pun hitting him in the bottle, I don't know where it came from. I don't know why they keep bringing it up or keeping it alive, because the truth was, it wasn't the truth. You know what I'm saying? If it was true, I'd be gladly say that, yeah, he hit him over the bottle and he knocked out her, but that's not the case.
People got it twisted with that. It was 2 altercations with Jay-Z. It was
okay.
That one, the club in Carbons,
yeah,
that was a whole different thing. That was, Jay-Z wasn't even there.
But DJ Whoo K told the story differently when he appeared on the Combat Jack show 8 years ago. He wasn't there that night, just like Nori, but as a mixtape DJ with connections in the industry, he heard rumors about it, allegedly from trustable sources. He said that Jay-Z was present that night in Carbon, but he exited early when the fight broke out. Pun and Cuban Link didn't even see him, probably because he was in a separate room. But when he got outside to avoid the fight in the club, he encountered some people from the Terror Squad, and one of them allegedly hit him with a champagne bottle, while he was outside trying to get to the vehicle to drive off.
There was a situation where Jay went out the wrong way in the club in the back, and then they hit him with a bottle. But Jay, I think, they tried to escape on behind the club, and then when he went,
Jay running.
I mean, I don't know if he was running, but he escaped from the back. But when he escaped from the back, the Terror Squad dudes was there.
Oh, he ran right into the fire.
And then bing, and they hit him, and then he just never responded to that situation. But me being in the industry with the mixtapes, we hear all this shit.
Combat Jack, rest in peace, said Dame Dash, the co-founder of Roc-A-Fella Records, was hit with a bottle too that night. But inside the club, he apparently got injured pretty badly. Some saw him days later, walking with crutches and a bandage around his head.
Did they hit Jay or they hit Damon?
No, they hit Jay, I think. I think Jay got hit with a bottle.
Because I remember that knot on Damon's big ass head. Like I used to represent Damon.
Okay.
And I remember one time he came to my office, he had a big bandage on his head. And he was talking about one night they got into it heavy with Terror Squad. And he was like, yo, I was trying to crawl out and this kept hitting me in the head with a champagne bottle. And I was praying that the bottle would break, but them bottles don't fucking break.
Just kept going, bing, 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 bing.
So then he said they caught him about 4 times, like, oh God, this bottle's gonna kill him.
Oh man. So but I think that was probably the fight on the inside.
Right.
And then there's another story by a person who claims he was there that night, but he didn't witness the actual fight. He came in after the brawl happened and had a drink with one of the night's performers, Frankie Negron, who told him everything that transpired during the fight. According to him, Jay-Z was present that night, but in a different room. His security escorted him out of the venue right before the fight began. Somebody threw a bottle at Jay from a distance, but missed. Jay got out and escaped. This may be the reason why there are so many rumors, but we can't be 100% sure until somebody from Jay's camp confirms it. And that basically sums up everything I've heard about the incident.
I love it. Except for Jay-Z. Brooklyn.
I know we got surrounded by 90 of them the other day.
Now, wasn't there a Sauce Money diss record towards you guys?
And that was the main thing. Yeah, that was another thing.
A few weeks after the fight in Carbon between the Terror Squad and the people from Roc-A-Fella, Sauce Money, one of Jay-Z's artists, put out a record called Middle Finger You, which the Terror Squad interpreted as a subliminal diss track against Pun and Fat Joe, assuming that it was Jay-Z's way of responding to that incident in Carbon. Like, look, I'm not even gonna waste my time on you two. I'll just let my little homies ride on you, just like Tupac said on Hit 'Em Up. This was the first time the Terror Squad found themselves in the middle of a rap beef. I mean, that's how they saw it. Most people on Roc-A-Fella didn't even know what was going on. According to Sauce Money, the record wasn't about anybody. Pun and Joe weren't even on his radar at that time. He didn't even know them. And that's why it wouldn't make sense for him to talk about them.
There was a situation with me and Pun. I had put out a record called Middle Finger You, the title track, and for some strange reason, he thought I was talking about him. But I didn't know you. I didn't know him, so I don't have a reason to talk about you, so.
Sauce Money did a record, said something about you fat too, you know what I'm saying? So it was indirect to Pun and Joe. Yeah, Joe and Pun was mad. I knew about it because I heard the record with them.
I don't really know exactly when this started or why it even started. I know that, we didn't have a problem with them. I think it was more of them having a problem with Roc-A-Fella. For whatever reason, I don't even know the reason.
According to DJ Whoo K, there was an alternative version of that song that was more direct, more disrespectful, and he had it on his mixtape. Sauce Money allegedly threatened Big Pun, his wife, kids, family, friends, and everyone around him basically, as a response to the fight in Carbon.
I have put out some different version of Big Pun getting dissed on the mixtape.
By whom?
I think it's when he had beef with Jay. What's his name? Who did Middle Finger You? I had like
Sauce Money.
Yeah, Sauce Money was like, I'm gonna give you a diss record, but I think he gave it to Envy and them, but I think they didn't want to play it.
Because I'm scared to play this record.
Yeah, like
this response record, because Terror Squad is.
But these dickheads didn't tell me, like Envy and them didn't tell me that. Don't play it.
You think they set you up?
I don't think they set me up. They just was like, whatever, do what you want to do. They probably told me I ain't give maybe.
Right.
But all I know is after I played that,
you played it on your mixtape.
Yo, man,
and Sauce Money was going hard.
I think I had the only record at that time dissing Pun like really bad, like talking about killing Pun, family members, all kinds of stupid shit. But I was the only DJ who had it.
It's possible that Joe and Pun didn't even hear that version, but ran with whatever people told them about it. Cause the Latin Kings and other gangs in New York were laughing at him, questioning his credibility as a self-proclaimed gangster. How you gonna let Jay-Z and his clique threaten your family and diss you on record while you sit there and watch like you're scared of a confrontation or battle? That's what they allegedly told him. So the pressure was on Pun to prove himself and to respond to all that.
A lot of y'all dudes is weak. So what? I said it. I heard all your albums.
Not knowing what Sauce Money said on the rumored alternative version, Big Pun listened to the single version differently. I mean, it did kinda sound like a battle record. He was speaking reckless and disrespectful on it. So it's possible that Pun misinterpreted the lyrics. Cause Sauce Money always denied that he was a target. But now we have two conflicting statements. One side is saying that there's only one version, which is not even supposed to be a diss track. And the other side is saying that there's an even more vicious alternative version in Whoo K's possession. He apparently has the only copy, and he received it from other mixtape DJs who refused to put it out due to them not wanting any trouble with the Terror Squad. They all got told that it was a diss record. Whoo K was the only one bold enough to put it on his mixtape. It's still weird that nobody ever mentioned this version of the song aside from Whoo K. Sauce Money never talked about it as if it doesn't exist. So there's either no alternative version in existence, or Sauce Money is trying to hide something from the public.
Stupid motherfuckers wanna be rap ruckers, biting ass niggas who love us, idolize us, eat it, can't touch us.
These are some of the lines on the original version that came out with a music video which also featured Jay-Z. It's possible that Pun and Fat Joe took offense to that part where he says, "Wanna be rap brothers." They always called each other twin, even dropped a popular song called Twins the same year. They were known as the two fat Puerto Rican rap brothers.
Yo, who the hell is Sauce you think he talking to, man? Arrogant, chubby motherfucker. You think you all of that, man?
In the bridge from the first to second verse, he had a segment in which a hater is calling out Sauce Money, saying he's an arrogant, chubby bastard who thinks he's something special. I think the Terror Squad didn't really understand the concept behind this record. When he says chubby motherfucker, he's talking about himself. But I guess Pun and Joe saw it differently after the Latin Kings pressured them and put the battery in Pun's back.
I don't play with whack rappers, I slay whack rappers. Only aim to decay, to spray whack rappers.
In the third verse, he said, "I'm the fattest, nicest rapper you know."
Did you hear? I'm the fattest, nicest rapper you know.
They might have taken offense to this line too, cause Pun and Joe were the biggest and most respected fat rappers at that point in time. excluding Biggie, of course, who had passed away.
What was the line that you said that he felt was about him?
I'm the fattest, nicest. You know, I think he took I think he had a problem with that.
Who right for who? You all sound the same, lame as fuck.
It was rumored that Big Pun ghost wrote for Fat Joe on the album Don Cartagena, which came out in the same year as Capital Punishment. But those rumors were shut down, and Fat Joe denied that he's getting help from other people, excluding the advices that Pun gave him how to make commercially successful hit records. Cause the perception on the street was that Joe needed Pun's help to save his rapping career and to become relevant again, with all the promising young talents taking over hip-hop and leaving Fat Joe behind in terms of record sales. So that might have been another line that struck a nerve. But the person who took offense to it the most was Pun. The self-proclaimed king of New York can't just let his competition diss him and threaten his family. He wasn't just an actor who acts tough on records. He actually lived the lyrics. Physical rap means we live the lyrics. That's a quote of Fat Joe, by the way, on Don Cartagena.
Physical rap means we live the lyrics. Long as it's you can never entirely disappear.
So it went beyond just going back and forth on records. Pun took it very serious. Fat Joe then went to an old store called Beat Street and got informed by another DJ that Whoo Kid had this alternative version on his mixtape, and he was the only one who had it at that time. Told him how crazy the record is and how he's going apeshit on Pun and his family.
Remember there was Beat Street, there was all those stores, they all shut down now.
Yeah,
but back then, my tape was I was the only dickhead DJ with this beef song. So Fat Joe, I think, went to some shit in Fulton, in one of them mixtape spots, and like, yo, this motherfucker, I don't know who's this Whoo Kid guy, but he got a song where I think Jay's camp is dissing Pun. And then Fat Joe was like, what? And then the combination of Fat Joe going to Beat Street, Beat Street, yeah, what's his name? DJ, I forgot his name, man. Damn. He was like the main DJ in Beat Street back then. Well, he fucking was like, yo, this Whoo Kid is selling like crazy. It's out of here. So I was like, so Fat Joe was like, what? So he calls Pun. Meanwhile, Pun.
Do you know all of this is going on?
I didn't know what was going on.
So you don't know none. You don't know you got a fucking bounty. You got a fucking Puerto Rican bounty on your fucking head.
That Pun bounty. Meanwhile, I'm a bum. I got the Honda Accord with the lights that go up and shit. I'm just chilling. I was even.
You got the hottest selling mixtape. You got the hottest beef. And you don't even know you're fucking ground zero with a target on your chest.
So Fat Joe then goes back to his camp and tells Pun about it. They listen to the single version together with Cuban Link and some other members of the Terror Squad. They all felt like he was coming at them. Pun then went to Noriega to shoot the music video for the song Banned from TV, and during the video shoot they played Sauce Money's song again, the single version. Everybody got a chance to hear it, and they were all convinced that he was indeed dissing Pun and Joe. And there was an even more vicious version of it going around the streets thanks to the mixtape DJ Whoo Kid. So Pun felt like he had to do something about it. One of his associates then gave him Whoo Kid's number, and that's what led to the infamous story of Pun kidnapping and threatening DJ Whoo Kid.
I think Whoo Kid had told the story before, where I guess Whoo Kid put the Sauce Money record on one of his mixtapes.
Then they put him in a van.
Yeah, Big Pun basically kidnapped him.
Yeah, it was known to do that. Known to do that.
Big Pun's people go and book Whoo Kid for a show, and then when he shows up, they grab him and pull him into a van.
Yeah, basically kidnap him.
And Big Pun is in the van with a gun, basically threatening to kill DJ Whoo Kid over putting that record out.
Playing that record, yeah, I heard the story.
Pun called Whoo Kid the same day he shot the music video for Banned from TV, pretending to be a promoter who's trying to book him for a show for $1,000.
So this guy tricked me into, I didn't know it was Big Pun calling me, so I thought it was a promoter.
Right.
So this Pun calls me, and then I'm thinking it's a promoter, because I didn't want the promoter to call my manager. They'll pay me $1,000.
Who's your manager at the time?
This guy named Blinton, but I didn't want Blinton to know that I'm about to get a G. I was getting like $3-4 bucks a DJ.
Yo, you such a shiesty nigga, man.
Haitian, man. Like,
yo, you such a shiesty motherfucker.
$1,000? I was like, what? You know, back then, that's like 10 G's.
Yeah.
I felt like Tiesto or something, man.
They spoke on the phone, and Pun told him to get to the Apollo Theater in Harlem to meet DJ Funkmaster Flex. But upon arrival, Whoo Kid realizes that nobody is there. Nobody was there waiting for him.
I told, don't call my manager and I'm gonna come meet you. So when I went to Harlem, I said, meet me at Apollo, give me the money, and then I'll sign whatever contract and I'll DJ for you. But it was supposed to be with Flex.
Right.
So I get out there, I believe the whole story, but I get to the, there was no cell phones back then. So I jumped out the car, I didn't see them off. So I went to the payphone by Apollo, dialed the number again.
So he called the same number again, but with a payphone this time, thinking he's talking to the promoter again, yelling and cursing him out for wasting his time and bullshitting him basically. Told him to hurry up and to not let him wait.
Pun picks up now, again, and I hear all this breathing.
Breathing, right?
Yo, I'm not there yet. You know what I mean? I'm like, motherfucker, you better hurry the fuck up and get over here.
You talking to him like that?
Yo, I'm cursing the fuck out of this.
So you throwing fucking oil, gasoline on the flames.
Pun is like, who is this nigga, man? Round everybody up. We're gonna get this.
So you waiting out there for how long?
I waited for like another 30 minutes. And then Pun just finished. He was doing a band for TV video.
Okay.
So some dickhead, I don't know who. This is before I DJ for Nori. Nori's like, no, I was there, man. Some nigga put it in a boombox and they started playing it. And Pun was like, yo, once my video is over, I'm gonna get this Whoo Kid guy. They thought it was Clue because they didn't know who the Whoo Kid was.
Right. And Clue, Whoo Kid, you know, question
all that just connected.
Right.
Because they were like, if they didn't see me Saturday, they were gonna kidnap Clue on Monday.
Damn.
Right after he does his Hot 97 show.
Right.
So Clue called me like, well, stop putting these shits out. But my dumb ass, Nas, everybody, you know, band for TV. Everybody was there listening to this shit. So he leaves with mad motherfuckers to come see me. He think I'm some crazy gangster with Uzis or whatever. I just cursed him out. Like, you better hurry the fuck up, bring my money. You got me out here in Harlem. So I'm talking like I'm tough. I'm the biggest pussy that there is.
Pun, of course, got mad at him for disrespecting him like that. But the phone conversation ended on a high note and both came to an agreement. A few moments later, a car pulls up and Whoo Kid gets excited.
So they come into Harlem. I'm waiting. And I finally see a Benz come up with a Spanish kid in it. So I'm like, whoo. Me and my boys was like, yo, Shay, we're going to get this G, yo. You know what I'm saying? Like, we were like, who we're going to get this $1,000, yo? Like, I never got $1,000 before.
Never.
So the dude got out the car. He was like, ooh, kid. I was like, oh, that's me, kid. Yo, I'm right here.
I see a Puerto Rican kid in a Benz come out of nowhere. So I was like, oh, shit, time to get this paper. So I told my boys in the car, they just came for weed. My boy had a gun, too. But
it was lightweight, right?
We didn't think,
it was 22, pat.
Like some 2.2.
Derringer.
Yeah, like
no bullets.
BB gun or something.
Pellets.
So he was like just chilling. Like I didn't even think it would even go that far.
Right.
I just brought him anyway because I don't trust Harlem niggas.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
So I get out, I get the fuck out, right? So I go to him. He's like, yo, we're on 136th Street, you know, behind, I don't know what street, but it was like a dead end circle, like in the project. You know, they got the circle. He's like, just follow me, kid. We're gonna go speak to Flex. We're gonna chop it up. Flex is in the car waiting for you. So I was like, ooh, we're gonna go chop it up with Flex too, yo.
He then told him to follow his car and he'll lead him to the exact spot where Flex is waiting. Whoo Kid agreed and jumped into his 1988 Honda Accord with his friends. He followed the Benz all the way to the projects, and then parked the Honda in an inconvenient spot. Cause when he went to the van with Funkmaster Flex in it, he quickly realized that he's completely on his own, and that even if something went wrong, his friends wouldn't be able to see him and come for help.
Yo, it was like one of circular project joints where there's only one way in and one way out. It's like a really like...
So you're getting lured into this...
Yo, it was all mapped out plan. Pun goes into, this boy goes to the right, and I had to park to the left. So when I parked to the left, there was a van in the middle with hooked up rims. You could tell there was a flat screen in there. I was like, whoo, Flex is in there. I'm about to get this paper. Got me Flex too, man. Get out of here, man. So I'm over here getting amped up, going crazy. My boys like, they're happy because I'm going to buy them weed and shit.
The way they had it set up, yo, it was the perfect setup because it was a circle, you know, the two big projects, three buildings, two on the side, one in the middle, and it's a circle. The van was in the middle, and the van was a hooked up van. The van had rims, had fire on it. So I was like, yo, Flex is here, yo.
So the Spanish kid comes out, how ironic. He's like, ooh, kid, what up? So I'm looking to the left, and I see another Puerto Rican sitting on the bench. I'm like, whatever. So I keep walking, and I see another Puerto Rican, like, on the far
back. A lot of Puerto Ricans around here in Harlem right
Flex, now. This is Flex be having mad Spanish with him, yo. Why Flex got so much Spanish? In the car, the nigga in the car was Spanish too. I was like, oh, this nigga's Boricua or something, man.
He then saw the Puerto Rican driver while going around the car. The door then started sliding open and he got a chance to see the person who was sitting behind it. The interior of the van was poorly exposed and it was too dark to see the passengers from outside. So he still thought that it was Flex, but noticed that the person sitting there was more than 3 times his size.
The door starts sliding now. The door is sliding open, right? So I'm like, yo, I'm looking, it's still dark in there, but I see like a big image in there, right?
A big image?
So I'm like, yo, Flex game mad way. Is that big cap? So I got closer and I was like, yo, is that cap in there, yo? So but in my head, I didn't even think about the mixtape not once until I got really close. And then now I see Pun. I was like, oh, shit. In my head, the mixtape came up.
Yo, once I saw Pun, the mixtape came up in my head. I was like,
I know that nigga.
Get the out of here. So I try to act like, man, maybe this ain't about the mixtape. Maybe they really want me to.
And isn't your instincts telling you get the fuck out of there?
I couldn't because the way they set it up, the van was in the middle. Both cars, one to the right, one to the left.
Right.
My car was parked so far to the left that the van blocked the vision of my niggas in the car.
Right.
The way they had it set up, the van was to the side, so I was blocked. So my loser friends was in the car like dancing or whatever. I tried, do the bogey shit. I put my hand out, yo, what up, kid? Because I thought maybe this is really, they would have booked me. In my head, I was like, maybe they do want to book me, you know what I'm saying?
He was a little confused how to react. A part of him still believed that they were there to book him for a show. So he reached out his hand to greet him, but Pun refused to dab him up and to shake his hand. Told him to get in the car. He was screwed at this point, cause he had nowhere to run and Pun's people were all around the van.
When I was directly in front of the door when they slid it open and I saw it was Pun, I said, yo, what up? I tried to give him a pound, but I don't even know how he got them hands behind his head. You know, he looked like a dinosaur or something, man. You know, like a Tyrannosaurus Rex.
With
like,
little arms?
All went behind his head like, I was like, yo, so I knew, once I saw he did that, I knew it was for the mixtape.
Right.
I put my hand out and Pun was like, his head went behind his head. He was like, and I was like,
and them alligator hands.
No, he was like, he put it behind his head, like he didn't want to give me a pound.
Wow.
So I was like, oh shit. So he was like, you want to come in the van and we're gonna chop it? I was like, hell no, I want to come in the van.
Meanwhile, I'm over here trying to back up so my friends could see me, but the way I would have to back up so far.
Some yards.
Like really far so they could see me, because that's how big that van was. But when I was backing up, my hands went down, and that's when they thought that I'm this gangster guy.
He was holding some shit.
So once my hands went down, yo, Pun had a Uzi. His boy, yo, I closed my eyes. When
they pulled out Uzis.
Pun had a Uzi.
Right.
The Puerto Rican dudes around the car then forcefully pushed him in the van. He was on his knees inside the car in front of Pun now, who pointed his Uzi to Whoo Kid's head. All the Puerto Rican dudes started yelling and cussing in Spanish.
I closed my eyes, and then when I opened them, I was in the van. That's how fast I got.
Hold up, they moved you in?
They grabbed me and threw me in the van. That's how fast I got.
So you're in the van right now?
I'm in the van on my knees.
Smacking you up?
Nah, they just had me on my knees.
You're on your knees in the van?
Yeah, because, you know, you can't stand up in the van.
Right.
So I'm in there, like...
And what do you're dead? Like, in your mind?
I was like, I'm going to die for a mixtape, man. What the fuck is this? So I'm on my knees, and then...
Are you singing, man? Like, nah, don't do this.
Nah, I was like, yo, what the fuck is going on? I was like, yo, what's going on? I played dumb. I was like, what's going on here, right? And then fucking... Pun is like, you know, talking to me about, yeah, you got some tape out there.
He's breathing hard too, right?
Yeah, he's like, all I remember, he's like, you got some tape out there, blah, blah, blah. But I want you to sit here. We're going to have a little chat. Like, where I'm going to go, you know what I'm saying? So
he was like, you know, the record that you put on your CD, no other DJ put it out. And I was like, word? You serious? You know, I thought everybody had the same record. So I'm in the floor of the van, like on my, like kind of like on my knees. Like Pun is like telling his boys to chill because they were doing like all that, what's going or whatever. They were yelling at me and shit.
Pun had to calm everyone down and told Whoo Kid to come sit right next to him. Whoo Kid then tried to get up on his feet, but then the tape in his pocket with the Sauce Money disc fell out and broke open in the car. A guy in the van saw it and started shouting aggressively, cursing him out in Spanish. And Whoo Kid started to fear for his life.
I was like, all right, I'll talk to you. But when I was getting up, because I was on my knees and I had my jacket, the tape fell out. Because I always have the tape on me. I'm always on some promo shit. I give my shit.
It's a CD. It's a big ass CD.
No, it's a tape.
It's a tape.
So the tape fall, the tape break a beat. Like, you know, when the tape fall opens, the tape pops out. So the Spanish, one of the Spanish niggas like, God de la boca, like screaming. I'm like, well, I'm gonna die. Like, I'm gonna die for tape, man. Fuck out of here, man. And then Pun, I think he yelled at his boy.
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, and he shut the door. Bam. And then I sat next to Pun. And I finally sat next to Pun. And Pun was like, you know, obviously you don't understand what's going on, right? Because I already see like judging like your car, and you look like, you know, you just hustling trying to get your shit popping.
Like he scoped the whole shit out.
Yeah, he already knew. Like he already knew. First of all, he already saw I was in Clue,
right?
So he already knew I was some young trying to just get money and don't give a fuck about what's on the tape, because the tape was all beef,
right?
Because everything was versus. But the f*** is, like I said before, I couldn't find a photo of Pun. The only photo I had that I found was Pun laying on a couch, like he's eating like candy or something, or he's eating like an ice cream or some shit. That's the, you know, I had Nas photo,
right?
Versus like,
so you had a f***ed up picture of Pun.
Yeah, it was the photo on the cover. So there was a combination of that, but the fact that it went deeper, where the Latin Kings was laughing at him because he wasn't responding. Or he's like, yo, how you gonna let Jay-Z's Cam diss you? Because, you know, he was really into that game.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just some dumb DJ from Queens. Like, well, I don't know, I'm not into gangs.
So what's Pun tell you?
He's like, yo, man, this is like, you know, I'm a real gangster, man. Like, you know, I'm gonna handle all this stuff on my own. I'm gonna go to the office. I'm going to Roc-A-Fella, and I handle all this stuff. But he was like, on the next mixtape, I want you to be like, you know, F-Jay-Z, blah, blah, blah.
He wants you to say that.
Yeah, and I was like, I'll say whatever.
Ah, f Jay-Z. Sean Carter, his Gloria Carter, everybody.
I was like, I'll do whatever you want me to do. Just get me the f out of this car. Right?
You shit your drugs?
But yeah, I know. Yeah, I did wipe my after it was over. I know I farted. I did have a fart. I had a little
more moisture in your ass.
What? My cap underwear was finished.
There.
But we talked for like another 30 minutes of what he wants to do.
30 minutes?
Yo, we were in that car forever, man.
Now, as he's talking to you, are you guys developing a relationship or?
I didn't give a f. I just want to get out of there. I let him talk whatever you want to talk. He's like, yeah, you know, maybe one day you'll do my mixtape. One day, you know, all that shit. Because he saw like, I guess he understood the whole hustle of what we were doing.
Right.
He probably don't know what the mixtape thing is about, but whatever we were doing, all that stealing.
The minute he sized you up,
yeah,
he knew that she was a hungry, young, ignorant motherfucker.
I didn't care. Right. Like, you know, like not only that, but he knew that I wasn't aware. He's like, the way I see you, I could tell you're not aware of what you're doing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
He saw the dumbness in it.
But he was like, now that you know, if you do this again, that means you know what you're doing.
Never again. Never again.
You're not gonna
never again, sir. Never again, sir.
Those Latins outside were gonna kill you.
I will never take another fucking diss tape for no Spanish no more.
It was like, yo, you're not gonna see me next time. Next time, you're gonna see my boys.
How did you leave? Did you shake his hand?
This is more funny. So I get out the car, and then Pearl's like, all right, just give me like 5-10 minutes. We're gonna leave. Nothing happened. I was like, yo, I don't even know you. He's like, yo, nothing happened, right? I don't even know you right now. I don't know who you are. I want to get the fuck out of here. So I get the fuck out the car. And then I totally forgot that he said give him like 10 minutes to leave.
Right.
So I get in my car. I didn't even tell my boys because I want my boys, what, Jeff? What you said?
Some ignorant shit. You like, no,
nah, man, we good, man. The show is booked.
Don't go against that army with a handgun.
I lied to my boys. I was like, yo, everything is good. We got the show. I didn't even want to bring it up that I got kidnapped for like an hour. Right. So they start driving and I start driving. Then the van stopped, right? The van stopped. I was like, oh, shit. The Spanish kid jumps out the car and goes, yo, we told you, yo, just give us 5 minutes. So I'm so scared, I reversed my Honda into the dumpster, like, my car. My car, right? So now they take off, and then it's like, my boy's like, you all right? I was like, nah, everything's good, man. I fucked up my car, everything's good. So then all of a sudden, like, another 5 minutes after, like, you see another Jeep or whatever come out, like 2 big SUV or Jeep.
What the kind of movie is this shit, man?
This motherfucker had 2 people just in case that my people was gonna start letting off. He had 2 cars.
So this shit was organized.
It was
super
super organized.
Militarily organized.
Super organized.
That's why he told you, sit your ass here.
Yo, it was
because any sudden movements.
If my friends would have, like, I would have got, like, even if I had something and I shot back, my friends would have helped me to shoot. He had 2 people positioned, ready to like.
You'd have been chopping. You'd have been chopping me.
So I would have probably caught somebody, but we all would have got shot up, and then we would have left. And then
Daily News, the next thing, Daily News.
Even the location that they chose is like some project where there's like hardly nobody outside. Especially that time of the day, it's like maybe all the kids are at school. Like it was like a dead project. It was like 3 buildings, like a circle. You know the circle joints?
Daytime.
Yeah, it was in the daytime.
Right.
So it was like, but the fact that he had 2 cars ready to light us up,
right?
Like I couldn't believe it. Like and then, in my head, I kept it to myself, and then I just drove home.
Pun told Whoo Kid that they'll drive to the offices of Roc-A-Fella the same day the kidnapping happened. He wanted to confront Jay about that diss record and find out if there's indeed beef between both camps. Pun apparently yelled at the staff, asked them about Jay, found out that he ain't present, and created a big scene before leaving. Jay-Z then got the message from the people in the offices and was shocked to hear what happened. He apparently didn't even know what was going on. They told him that Pun was on a rampage and that he's trying to find and confront him. Knowing that Roc-A-Fella already had an altercation with the terror squad in Carbon, and that Dame Dash, the co-founder of the label, got hit multiple times with a champagne bottle, he wanted to prevent the same thing from happening again at all costs. Try to avoid them and to not get in their way, while simultaneously trying to find a safe and indirect way to tell them that there's no beef, and that the Sauce Money record wasn't about anybody. Jay was still working on his upcoming album Volume 2 Hard Knock Life, still trying to get a platinum plaque and have a commercial breakthrough, trying to build as many relationships in the industry as possible, especially with those that are more successful and popular than him. Like DMX, for example, who was one of the biggest rappers at this point. His album It's Dark and Hell Is Hot went platinum in just 1 month, and multi-platinum in the months that followed. And there was another album on the way the same year called Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood, which also went multi-platinum. Jay was featured on the song Blackout, and DMX also had a verse on Money Care Shows, which was on Jay-Z's upcoming album. So Jay then went to DMX's listening party to celebrate his success and the upcoming releases, and also to meet new people, build relationships, and also listen to DMX's new album. As luck would have it, he encountered Cuban Link from the Terror Squad, who was out there by himself. Now, at this point, Pun was on a Jay-Z hunt, searching him everywhere, trying to find and confront him, to see if he really wants beef. But Cuban Link wasn't as much of a hothead as Pun back then. So when these two met at the party, they had a cool, relaxed and mature conversation about the Sauce Money song. Jay tried to calm the situation and convince Cuban that it's all love. Nobody on Roc-A-Fella was looking for a beef.
Jay-Z pulls me to the side and tells me, yo Q, you tell your mans in them that record wasn't for them, man, you heard? Jay pulled me up to the side and told me, that wasn't even about them. That. Not more of an apology, but more just putting me on point, like, that had nothing to do with that. And I go, I don't even know what's going on, man. But, they feel a certain way about it, you know what I'm saying? I heard it, you know what I'm saying? It sounds like, you know what I'm saying? But he was like, tell them it's nothing like that, man. Tell them it's nothing like that. You know what I'm saying? I said, they feel a certain type of way. You know what I'm saying? I told him just like that. I said, they feel a certain type of way. He was like, man, tell them that's a photo, man. Don't even think it that way. And, surely, he told me, tell them it's not about whatever. So I go back and I tell, these, did y'all hear about the song? He said, trying to get at us. It was amped up already. So I said, I'll tell him. He gave me that. And then, I went and told him there was nothing. You know what I'm saying? But they still felt that way. You know what I'm saying?
So Cuban Link comes back from that listening party to report what just happened. But Joe and Pun weren't buying it and thought that he was lying to save his skin. The Terror Squad was still working on Fat Joe's third album, Don Cartagena, at this point. But they were also touring around and promoting Big Pun's album Capital Punishment. Pun and Joe still wanted to find him, even after Cuban Link explained them Jay's side of the story. Hope that they can catch him on tour or during a show. And that's exactly what happened. Jay performed on the Luke tour in Chicago. Pun found out about it and used this opportunity to approach him.
There was another show date that we was at a show and Jay-Z was also performing, and Pun knew that Jay-Z was there. So because of the altercation between their camps, he stepped up to Jay-Z to see if there was any beef or any problem.
Then I saw Jay-Z again at a show, and he was chasing Jay-Z around the couch. Pun and Joe was chasing Jay-Z around the couch. And Jay was like, chill.
It all happened in Jay-Z's green room. He was relaxing before coming on stage. Pun was supposed to perform there too, but I guess Jay either didn't know or didn't think much of it, cause he had already spoken to Cuban Link and clarified that the song wasn't about them. Everything I'm about to tell you has to be taken with a grain of salt, cause we only got statements by people who weren't present in that incident. There were only 3 witnesses in this private conversation: Pun, Fat Joe, and Jay-Z. Pun, of course, passed away about 1.5 years after this incident. We never got his side of the story in an interview. We only heard from people repeating what he allegedly told them. Fat Joe doesn't want to speak on it cause it would reignite the beef. He never mentioned this incident in interviews. He was once asked about it in November 2001, right before Nas dropped his Jay-Z diss record Ether. People leaked the original verses of the unreleased version online. I did a whole video on this, which you should definitely check out. The guy who did the interview read out the lyrics in front of him and asked him for his opinion.
Call yourself a gangster, but you were begging for pardon that night in Carbon when Terror Squad flipped on your squadron. Try to front on their checks till Pun put a gun to your chest.
Fat Joe responded by saying that he's looking forward to hear the diss track, while being a little surprised that Nas just made him part of the beef. He then added that anybody can get it if they really want beef with him, and he shall ask Jay-Z about that part with the gun, cause he doesn't want to speak on it anymore. And we all know Jay-Z won't ever speak on it. The only thing he'll do is make a couple of phone calls to correct people, like how he did with Noriega when he confirmed the rumor of Pun hitting Jay-Z with a bottle, even though he wasn't there. All we're left with are rumors and vague descriptions of what went down, cause Big Pun told Cuban Link and his wife what happened, but he avoided the details. And what they said is this: Pun and Joe met him in that room to ask him if there was any problem, and if the Sauce Money disc was about them. Next thing you know, Jay got scared and chased around the couch by Pun, while screaming for help and begging him to chill. They made peace, and that's it.
I think they had a meeting with him in a room. Like they told him, "Yo, let me talk to you for a minute." And just Pun told me he was chasing him around the couch. Like, you know, Pun started wilding. You know, I remember how Pun used to get with the psycho shit, with the demons. He used to scare everybody with that. Like the demon shit that he's in him. So I know how I get. Joe and Pun went to meet him inside a room. And, you know, Jay was, you know, I'm a track star inside the room. Around the couch. They came out the room and they chased Jay-Z around the couch. You know, that Pun and Joe came back and told me that. And my brother wouldn't lie to me. He came back and said, yo, we had him running around the room.
They chased Jay-Z around the couch?
Yeah.
And they came strapped up, and then Jay had the little kids in the building just so niggas wouldn't air it out.
Wow, that was smart.
All I remember was Jay-Z doing the Matrix in the room by the couch and Pun chasing him.
Wow!
Pun chased Jay-Z.
And Joe talking shit. So he said, you know, that Jay was like running around the couch and said, yo, why do you mean that like that? You know, whatever. No punches were thrown at that time, but, you know, that's a story my brother told me, so I go with it.
We heard stories of Jay putting kids in the lobby so that Pun, Joe and the Terror Squad wouldn't shoot up the place. Other rumors suggest that Jay got pistol whipped by Pun, beaten up, a gun pressed to his chest, the story that Nas told us, yelled at, insulted, humiliated, emasculated, the full package. There are thousands of rumors, and most of them are probably made up. Some could be exaggerated or misremembered versions of what Pun told his friends, or what eyewitnesses have seen. They may be true to some extent, but we'll unfortunately never get a clear breakdown or explanation for it. Jay would hurt his reputation if he ever spoke on it, and Joe refuses to talk about it.
So it was like a secret thing on the records? Or was it like, no, everybody
was
like,
beef. It was new though.
Right.
It's in the industry. It was new about it. The industry knew what was going on. Just people didn't know.
I've heard so many stories.
I can't talk about that.
Anyway, let's address some of the rumors that are floating around. Rumor 1. Big Pun hit Jay-Z on the head with a bottle in Chicago. This rumor has been debunked by Cuban Link and Pun's wife. Jay-Z performed as if nothing happened after that meeting, and so did Pun. Nobody had visible injuries.
Pun went in with Cuban and a few other guys and went to Jay-Z's green room. And as fast as they went in, they came out. And, you know, Pun came out and said there was no problem. You know, they squashed and it was all good. You know, Pun performed and Jay-Z performed, and he even let me, you know, cause I was dying. I needed to see Jay-Z perform. So he let me go on the side of the stage and I seen him perform.
Why would you make peace with someone who just hit you with a bottle? Most people say that incidents happened in Carbon. Rumor 2. Pun threw bottles and different objects at him but missed. This is false too. There was no bar in the green room. No bottles to throw. Rumor 3. Jay-Z tried to punch Fat Joe but missed. Pun got mad and chased him around the couch. People think this is true due to a song lyric on his album Yeah Baby in the year 2000.
The desert or the shotty, whatever, you the body that chose to be the dumb guy at the party.
These lines have nothing to do with Jay-Z. I mean, they didn't even meet at a party, they met on tour. And this is also not about that night in Carbon. Cause according to Cuban Link, Jay and Pun didn't meet that night. They didn't even know if Jay was there.
Too much Bacardi started speaking dumb. Then you tried to snuff Joe. Must have been Puerto Rican rum.
The incident that Pun addressed here is about a club fight in Bridgeport, Connecticut, where Fat Joe, Cuban Link, Tony Sunshine and a few other Terror Squad members clashed with a kingpin called Frankie the Terminator Estrada, who, from what I've heard, was half Italian, half Puerto Rican, and had ties to the Italian mob. Frankie had paid Pun and the Terror Squad to come to Connecticut for a concert on Puerto Rican Pride Day. After Pun's performance at the parade, top members of the Latin Kings affiliated organization and the Terror Squad retreated to Frankie's nightclub Palacio Blanco and began partying VIP style. But Pun was the only one who didn't come. He went home after the performance.
It was the Puerto Rican parade in Connecticut. We went over there because of Pun. And because we trusted this guy.
We went up there because of Pun. Pun was the only guy that didn't go.
Cuban Link, right? The guy, the main kingpin, who's treating us like a king, right? He got his wife with him, the Nena. The guy accused Cuban of trying to fuck his girl or whatever.
Cuban Link then bought shots for all the ladies in the club, and Frankie got mad cause one of those girls was his wife. He slapped the shot off her hand and the drink splashed onto Cuban Link. That quote-unquote dumb fella at the party was Frankie the Terminator Estrada, not Jay-Z. He started the fight out of nowhere. He was drunk, aggressive, and looking for trouble.
Whatever, you the body that chose to be the dumb guy at the party. Too much Bacardi started speaking dumb.
I said, my brother, what's going on, my nigga? You know what I'm saying? You slapped that shit that she got on me. Said, I don't give a fuck, nigga. Get the fuck out of here, nigga. I'm from Brooklyn. He told me that shit, but like in my face.
I think Cuban punched him in his face or something. He knocked him out. He knocked him out. He punched him in the face, right? Knocked him out, and set everything off.
Now we go from Puerto Rican parade, we just performed, to 5,000 guys in the club jumping us. It's like 10 of us against 5,000.
Literally 10 of us. Literally 10 of us with
no, we got our ass
200
whooped.
dudes.
Listen to me. We got our ass whooped. Like, I mean, I don't know how we alive, right? Because we fought, at the very least, 1,000 people. The whole club turned on us.
Yeah, towards the end, they pulled out 1,000 hammers on us.
Those is the fake BMF of the air, like they ran this.
Nah, and everybody was fighting. And everybody was fighting.
Yeah, and everywhere you look, we was getting stomped out. 10 dudes on one dude, 20 on another dude. No, everybody got beat up. Fat Joe, everybody
got beat up.
Everybody. Like, everybody got their ass.
Cuban Link and some other Terror Squad associates fought till the end until the same guy that started the whole fight pulled out a gun. Tony Sunshine was lying under a sink, crying and begging for Estrada's people to stop, cause they were about to beat him up with a mop. Fat Joe got punched and ran away while the rest of the Terror Squad was fighting. But they all got beaten up pretty badly, and Pun was pretty upset about it.
Think you tried to snuff Joe, must have been Puerto Rican rum.
We put up in Tone's, in Pun's block, right? Pun rolls over the floor like a movie with a Mac in one hand and what's up, twin? What we doing? What they want, twin?
What we doing?
You, like, because it happened because of him. This guy wanted to smoke so bad in the Bronx, he could not believe he got beat up. He was in the middle of the street screaming with machine guns. Dad! What? He rolled on the floor when we got there with the machine guns. Like, yo, who the f*** They was telling people they beat up Fat Joe and the Terror Squad. Man, they took, and they did.
Jay-Z wouldn't have the courage to punch Fat Joe. Let's be real here. I mean, Pun and Joe together were like 1,000 pounds heavy at that time. Jay-Z was a featherweight in comparison, and overall not known to start fistfights out of nowhere. Anyway, rumor 4. Jay-Z was threatened with a gun, which Pun pressed against his belly or chest. This rumor is supported by 3 songs: Rude Boy Salute off the Terror Squad album in 1999, You Was Wrong of Yeah Baby in the year 2000, and once again in the song 100%, which are already mentioned in rumor 3, but this time we're talking about a different verse where he might have addressed the fights with Roc-A-Fella, cause he mentioned his Rambo knife which he pulled out during the club fight in Carbon.
Pun had a Rambo knife. I was there. You know, he pulled out a Rambo knife.
That's a track, now you abnormal. But made me grab the rumble and put some stabs on you.
I'm known for bouncing thugs from the tunnel to salsa clubs. This could be a reference to him chasing people from Roc-A-Fella out the club, cause he was tackling and fighting multiple people that night.
Get smacked silly for coming out your mug. I'm known for bouncing thugs from the tunnel to the salsa clubs.
Some rumors suggest that the promoter and owner of the club got mad at the Terror Squad for starting the fight, and they allegedly didn't get the payment they were promised, either because of Jay not performing or them ruining the party.
The night is young and I'm already fighting, hiding my gun, promoted bugging, screaming, who the f*** invited Pun?
The line that supports the rumor of Pun putting a gun to Jay-Z's chest comes right after that. This would be in line with what Nas said on the unreleased version of Ether.
Try to front on their checks till Pun put a gun to your chest.
Don't matter, put the chrome to your bladder.
On Rude Boy Salute, he actually mentions Jay-Z by name and says,
Let me find the next mother disrespect Fat Joe the dog Carter, and I'm gonna have to chicken like Sean Carter.
He'll do you like Sean Carter, aka Jay-Z, and pull up with guns.
That's right, I'ma be there with my guns, throwing the spot.
So this could be used in support of the rumor of a gun being involved. In Chicago, when Pun and Joe approach Jay-Z and chase him around a couch. More interesting lines can be found on the second verse of the song You Was Wrong, in which he says,
The only rapper pull out a gun and slap the shit out of you. Can't tell me nothing, a clunk, you won't stomp out your belly button.
People use this verse to confirm the rumors of Pun pistol whipping Jay-Z. And then he says, too quick to blast, some fellas talk shit and dash. This could be a reference to Jay getting chased around the couch and screaming, I didn't mean it like that, in the green room during the Luke tour. We are talking about a man who beat up his wife with a Mac-10. So, if you can pistol whip the mother of your children and kidnap a DJ with an Uzi, then I don't think it's beyond your capabilities to threaten your rivals with a gun. Another quote-unquote piece of evidence for many people is Nas's unreleased Ether verse, which Fat Joe refused to speak on when he was asked if those lines are actually true. Cause Nas said the exact same thing as Pun. They were all very close, so it's not unlikely that he told him about that meeting. Cause Nas had his own list of issues with Jay. I mean, they were beefing with each other. Joe didn't shut those rumors down when he was asked. He could have just said no. This was right before he squashed his beef with Jay. The only reasons why he didn't give an answer are either because the lines are true, because he didn't want to ruin Nas's punchlines on his diss song, or because he loves to create controversy. Nas could have also just exaggerated that part about the gun to make Jay look even worse. I mean, it was a diss track after all. It's possible that Fat Joe asked him to remove those lines from the song because they're either untrue or because he doesn't want to add more fuel to the fire, now that their beef is squashed. Rumor 5. The meeting took place because of that fight in Carbon. Pun and Joe didn't get their promised money after Jay-Z refused to perform that night. They allegedly forced Jay to pay them $15,000, and the chasing around the couch happened after he refused to pay. They forced him to write a check, and afterwards they squashed the beef. People use the line on Ether as an indicator for the rumor being true.
Try to front on their checks till Pun put a gun to your chest.
Tried to front on their checks. So according to Nas, it was about money. This story could be true, but it's not really in line with what Cuban Link said. The way he told it, it was more about Pun wanting to ask about the diss track and see if he really wanted beef with him. It could have been a combination of all those things that have transpired before that incident. Pretty sure Pun didn't just forget about that fight. Rumor 6. This incident happened in Jay-Z's Roc-A-Fella office in New York. And there's another source saying it happened in Jay-Z's 4040 Club, also in New York. But that rumor is made up, cause the 4040 Club opened in 2003, 3 years after Pun had passed. So how the hell is Pun supposed to chase him around the couch when he's dead? And it wasn't in Jay-Z's office either, cause Pun told Cuban Link and his wife that it happened in Chicago during a tour. The last rumor is a full breakdown of what happened, posted by someone who claims to have worked there. I would take this one with a huge grain of salt, cause this could have been written by some random troll on the internet, who's just looking for attention. He said Pun and Joe came there with like a dozen people who forced everybody in that green room outside except Jay-Z. They even pushed his Hawaiian bodyguard outside and he couldn't enter the room, cause the people who came with Fat Joe and Pun blocked the door. The witness didn't see what happened inside cause he was outside as well. Nobody could get in there, not even the bodyguard. He said he heard Jay-Z scream and run less than a minute after they closed the door, trying to call his bodyguard for help and begging Pun to stop. At that moment, the bodyguard tried to get in but was once again pushed back. Fat Joe and Pun were both yelling, but they calmed down eventually. And then the witness didn't hear anything else for like 5 minutes. I guess they were speaking in a normal tone. It wasn't loud enough for the people outside to hear. Pun and Joe then came out and walked away with their team. The bodyguard then stormed inside, and all of a sudden the witness heard Jay-Z yelling, most likely at the bodyguard for doing such a terrible job. And that was basically it. The story may be true, but could also just be made up. Who knows? I'm not saying that I believe it, but it's not unlikely that it transpired in a similar way. Jay-Z then told DJ Clark Kent, another Roc-A-Fella associate, to call and to speak with Sauce Money about this incident. The DJ apparently offered Sauce Money to put him on the phone with Pun, so the two of them can talk it out and Pun can hear it from the horse's mouth that the song wasn't about him. And that's what happened. They talked on the phone and squashed the beef.
Clark Kent had called me. He put me on the phone with him and, we discussed it. I let him know, like, I don't really know you to dish you on the record. You basically kidnapped the dude for nothing. Cause I'm not if I was talking about Big Pun, I would have said Big Pun.
Sauce Money didn't even know what was happening. Pun and Joe got mad out of nowhere, and all of a sudden he found himself in the middle of a rap beef, even though he had his own little issues with the Roc-A-Fella team at the time. They separated not too long after. There are even rumors that Jay dropped Sauce Money off the label for getting him in trouble with Big Pun. But the friction between Roc-A-Fella and the Terror Squad was still there, even after squashing the beef. On September 1st, 1998, Fat Joe dropped his third album, Don Cartagena, which had the Terror Squad on the cover, all in tailor-made suits, dressed similarly to Jay-Z on the Reasonable Doubt album cover, and also his music videos like Can't Knock the Hustle, for example. The album went gold in just 50 days, one of his most successful projects to date, and we actually got a few lines on here that could be interpreted as subliminal disses towards Jay-Z and Roc-A-Fella, although they're very vague and could be directed at anybody. But Fat Joe confirmed that there was indeed a subliminal war between those two. On Triplets he said, Roc-A-Fella was the only squad messing with them at the time. On Find Out he says, this could be a reference to Joe and Pun running up on Jay-Z in Chicago, the incident I mentioned earlier. Then on Don Cartagena he says, it's my city and everything in it. The world, Chico. And everything in it. This line could be interpreted as a response to Jay-Z's song The City Is Mine, which many rappers, including Nas, took offense to back then. And I let the world know that the city is mine. It's my city and everything in it. On My World he then says, you want some jealous ones, envy, competitive. Check out my enemies mapped out. Jealous One's Envy was Fat Joe's second album, in which he transitioned into the mafioso, drug-dealing baller image, which he believed Jay-Z copied for his Reasonable Doubt album. Again, the tailor-made suits, the hat, the tie, the whole drug dealer mafioso don image, the lyrics, etc. Then on That Gangsta Shit he said, Joe is once again saying that his words are not just words, that he's taking this gangster shit seriously. He lives what he raps. He doesn't just attack and kill people in his lyrics like Jay-Z. He actually goes out there and handles his beefs himself. It can get physical whenever you want. I'm not acting and pretending to be a gangster. Then on Misery Needs Company he says, first clown in my face is getting thrown out the place. We run. Could be a reference to the incident in Carbon, where they threw the whole Roc-A-Fella clique out the club and chased them all the way back to Brooklyn. The last jabs on the album can be found on the song Terror Squadians, on which he says, who lives the lyrics? On my real already know. Rappers don't live their lyrics, specifically targeting Jay-Z, who acts tough on records, but in real life, when they saw each other, he was scared and ran away. He's not behaving the same way he presents himself in his songs. Flow for flow, no crew can step to us and blow for blow. I'm pretty sure that you heard the rumors. Joe is once again alluding to that fight in Carbon, while not fully explaining what went down. Probably to let people speculate and continue sharing the wildest rumors and theories about it. Cause it was all good for business. Every rumor helped Joe and Pun to sell records. To know that the Terror Squad is the most feared rap group in the world. A gang that terrorizes the rap game. It all helped to build up the image and to get a reputation on the streets. And Joe knew that. He never shut down any rumors about that night. Anyway, the same month, September 98, on the 29th to be exact, Jay-Z dropped his breakthrough album Volume 2 Hard Knock Life, which became his most commercially successful album to date, selling over 5 million copies in the US. It was his first album to debut at number 1 on the Billboard 200. It shipped 350,000 units in the first week and spent a total of 5 consecutive weeks at the top spot. Jay's first album to go platinum. He easily outsold the Terror Squad and became a superstar in no time. His songs were used to promote movies, played on every radio station, and basically outshined everything that Big Pun had built up to this point, at least success-wise. Jay became a more mainstream and radio-friendly businessman, and slowly moved away from his drug dealer and mafioso image, becoming more of a rich baller and player, while still incorporating certain elements of the whole tough guy image into his music, like the whole boss and macho mentality, but more on a business level than street level. He wanted his records to be more commercial, more radio-friendly hits, no need to be the toughest gangster when you can outshine your competition success-wise and build up an empire. That was his whole mindset. he didn't really have any hard feelings towards the Terror Squad camp. He actually came over to the Bronx to meet Fat Joe during a Hurricane George benefit dinner and concert at Jimmy's Bronx Cafe on October 6th. Hurricane George formed on September 15th and dissipated on October 1st, killing 604 people and causing around $10 billion in damage. Before that meeting, Jay and Roc-A-Fella Records found out about the album going #1. So he celebrated his success with bottles of Cristal and cigars, but kept it low-key out of respect for those affected by the hurricane.
That night, I think it was a Tuesday night, that we went up to the Fat Joe thing in the Bronx. They had a, the hurricane relief joint. So, we had a couple bottles, smoked some cigars up there. It was hard to jump up and down, jump all around like, we're #1, and, people done lost their homes and everything.
And that was just the beginning of a long and successful career. He was nominated in almost every category on every award show, won tons of awards, while Pun always went home empty-handed and as the loser of every award show. Even though just a few months ago he was bigger than Jay. I mean, Pun was the first to go platinum. Jay somehow managed to flip the script by the end of the year. In 1998, Jay won the Billboard Award for R&B Artist of the Year, and Pun wasn't even nominated. Instead, they had DMX, Lauryn Hill, and Master P. In the following year, Jay then won 8 more awards, while Pun lost in every category he was nominated for. Like for example, the Soul Train Music Awards for the Best Video of the Year, which he lost to Lauryn Hill, the NAACP Image Awards for Outstanding New Artist, once again lost to Lauryn Hill, the ALMA Award for Outstanding Music Videos, the Source Awards 1999, nominated and lost in 3 categories. New Artist of the Year, for which Eminem was also nominated, once again lost to Lauryn Hill, Single of the Year lost to Juvenile, and most importantly, Lyricist of the Year, for which Big Pun, DMX, Redman, Andre from Outkast, and Jay-Z were nominated. Pun lost this one to Jay-Z. The quote-unquote phony who stole Fat Joe's style and faked his whole life story was more successful than the real ones and originators. They were definitely a little upset and frustrated about this. Pun always felt like he was the best lyricist, better than Jay-Z. So him losing the awards definitely struck a nerve and hurt his ego. He even rapped about it on the song It's So Hard, which was released a year later.
Take a glance and I'm off with yours. With both hands and off my drawers and jerk me like the Source Awards.
People say he was upset the most about losing to Juvenile in the category Best Single of the Year. But in the lines that follow, he talks about being the best lyricist alive, so he's obviously alluding to his loss against Jay-Z in the category for Best Lyricist of the Year.
I love hip-hop, I ain't even probably the best lyricist alive. Till the squad stop sleeping.
On the same song, he also addressed the Grammy Awards, which Pun didn't win either. His project Capital Punishment was nominated on February 24th, 1999 for the Best Rap Album of the Year, and he lost to Jay-Z's Volume 2 Hard Knock Life. So 2 consecutive losses against Jay, which are all addressed in the same song.
Miami, almost came home with the Grammy. Next year, bring it home 3 for the family.
He unfortunately didn't get the chance to get nominated again for a Grammy. He didn't win a single award, while his rival Jay received 8 awards in just 1 year. Pun was definitely upset about this. The friction between the Terror Squad and Roc-A-Fella camp seemed to have cooled down after the meeting in Chicago. But these consecutive losses for Pun added more fuel to the fire and undermined their already shaky relationship. This was almost like a race for them. They took it way more serious than Jay, and got frustrated once they got left behind. Pun and Joe couldn't live with the fact that Jay was more successful with quote-unquote their own style, even though he ain't about that life and doesn't really understand what he's rapping about. To see the quote-unquote fakest rapper on top, with more success, record sales, awards and fans than the real ones, was something that most MCs, especially in New York, had a problem with. They liked his music, but they saw him more as an actor and pretender who just tells fake stories to sell records. And they thought it's unfair that somebody like that is this successful. Jay always got treated like an enemy, even after squashing the beef.
I came out my house every single day of my life for war, for beef, for violence.
Right.
And I woke up every day for the smoke. I'm like, all right, if we see these niggas in the airport, we see them at the BET Awards, we see niggas anywhere, just go.
So anyway, Jay-Z exceeds everyone from New York in terms of success, except maybe DMX at that time. And the Terror Squad camp doesn't stop sending shots at him even after signing the metaphorical peace treaty. On August 10th, 1999, the first installment of the Violator hip-hop compilation series was released, and it included a song called Heavyweights, which featured 8-Ball, Fat Joe and Big Pun, who dedicated an entire verse to Jay-Z and Roc-A-Fella. Proof for this are the last few lines in which he says,
I don't play those games. You got beef with Jigga? Say my name. You got beef with Pun? Say my name. I don't play those games.
Pun quoted lines from a remix to a song called I Don't Wanna Be Alone, on which Jay-Z was featured. He finished off his verse by hinting who this verse is dedicated to. Jay-Z said, if you got beef with Jigga, say my name. Pun flipped it and used those lines against him. Don't send people like Sauce Money to fight your wars for you. He wants Jay-Z to say his name and to diss him directly, if he really wants to smoke, and is ready for a whole back and forth. Instead of playing games, keep that same energy, and say the names of the people you're dissing. So it's basically a threat at Jay-Z and his whole crew. This verse is written in second person, so he's directly talking to Jay.
Hey yo, you, your whole crew for breathing, your mother, your father, your kids, for no reason.
Then he called Jay-Z a creature worse than a snake that faked his whole life for cash. Pun hopes he'll eventually pay for his actions and mistakes, wishes that he'll get touched in jail while he's taking a bath, while saying that he wouldn't last a day in there, cause he's not built for it, even though he acts tough. People to this day clown Jay-Z for his voluminous lips. Some say they look feminine. Others think they belong on a camel. And then you have the infamous line on Ether, on which Nas says,
how much of Biggie's rhymes is gonna come out your fat lips, dick sucking lips?
Yeah, this is definitely about Jay-Z. This was around the time Pun's health started to worsen. He gained a lot of weight and was unable to walk. He had no stamina, his voice worsened, couldn't perform his verses anymore when he was live on stage. You could hear him breathe heavily after every bar. His crew and backup rappers had to take over and help, rapping large portions of Pun's verses while he was trying to catch his breath. It messed up his flow, cadence, delivery, voice and energy, and got so bad that he couldn't even record songs in the studio anymore. But that summer they convinced him to enter a weight loss camp at Duke University.
We did the pool every day and helped him exercise and things like that, and that's where we recorded the Yeah Baby album. We recorded the whole album there.
They got him a mic and he rapped while laying in his bed. That's how they recorded his last album and some of the songs before it.
He lost 150 pounds. He was doing pretty well.
I just lost 100 pounds. I'm trying to live.
But even then, he still wasn't the same rapper he used to be. Didn't sound as healthy and energetic as on his debut album. His weight slowed down his signature flow and messed up his delivery and cadence. But they still managed to put together quite a few records, like the Terror Squad group project, which came out on September 21st, 1999. And it of course contains subliminal lines against Jay-Z and Roc-A-Fella. I already addressed most of them to provide context when I spoke on the meeting in Chicago, but the one I haven't mentioned yet is the song Bring It On by Fat Joe. You may remember what I said in the beginning of the video. On his debut album, he had a song called Bring It On, which featured Sauce Money, who, like I explained earlier, put out a song that sounded like a diss record towards Pun and Joe. Jay's song also sampled Fat Joe in the hook, so Joe is now releasing a track with the exact same title to respond to Jay's challenge on Reasonable Doubt, where he used Fat Joe's voice to tell MCs to bring it on.
Bring it on if you think you can hang, and if not, then let me do my thing. Yeah. Bring it on if you think you can hang, and if not, then let me do my thing. Yeah. Bring it on, come on. I know you really want it. How am I supposed to know there's something when you keep fronting?
Once again, they tell Jay-Z to mention their names, just like Pun did on Heavyweights.
You got beef with Pun, say my name. I don't play those games.
You got beef with Jigga, say my name.
And if you really want the problem, you say my name. Bring it on, come on.
To sum it up, the Terror Squad is nothing to mess with. They are real gangsters with real guns. No fakers or pretenders like Jay. And anybody who wants to test them shall just say their names and they're ready to beef on records on person.
Command us if you're ready for war. Whoever you are, leave you dead in your hall, licking red on the floor. I'm better than yours.
It's an unspecific subliminal diss that technically could be about anybody. But Joe had Jay in mind when he wrote it. Throwing stones, waiting for a response or a public statement by Jay that says the beef is on. So it's basically just bait. Cause Pun originally went in and said some crazy shit about Jay on the song Rude Boy Salute, which was also on the Terror Squad album. But Joe told him to take that part out cause it was too direct and they had already squashed the beef in Chicago. Pun agreed, but they decided to keep it subliminal. And he ended up leaving the part about jigging a fella like Sean Carter in the song.
Let me find the next motherfucker disrespect Fat Joe the dog Carter, and I'm not the chicken like Sean Carter.
They were just waiting for a sign or a wrong move by Jay, and they were ready to go at him. But Jay wasn't really doing anything. So they were just trying to intimidate and provoke him.
I got him hanging by the neck, man, you tangling with vets when you banging with the yes, what the fuck?
Pun was just a very loyal dude who's very hard to hold back once he's in war mode. Cause originally it wasn't even Pun's beef, it was Fat Joe who had a problem with him. And Pun was the blood-hungry soldier in this situation, who just did dirt for Joe.
This man he worshiped Fat Joe. From the minute I said, you my little brother, that was it. It was over. It was like, yo, that's it, I'm signed in. You mean all these crazy gonna jump when I tell them to jump? Yes, they love you, Pun, that was it.
Yes, my dear Don Cartagena. Pun loved you, baby boy. He loved you. He admired you. He wanted your approval for everything. He loved you. And besides, this here had chasing fucking King's son and fucking Lehman College. All of us chasing just because he had beef with him. Chasing Jay-Z had beef with all these niggas getting into problems because of this fucking leadership. And just because he didn't like him, we didn't like him either because we loved our brother.
In the last few months of Pun's life, he tried to finish up his upcoming album, Yeah Baby. Some said it was unfinished when it came out, but it still had enough songs on it to be considered a full-length project. Pun unfortunately regained his weight and once again had problems recording music. Jay-Z, on the other hand, was on top of the world at this point. He released his fourth album, Volume 3, Life and Times of Sean Carter, on December 28, 1999, which went triple platinum. Pun at this point had accepted the fact that he most likely won't ever be able to outsell him. Cause on the song My Turn he said, this line is of course also aimed at Jay-Z, cause Volume 2 went like 4 or 5 times platinum. He also talked about beef and hearing his enemies' new assholes. Pun was always a fan of Jay-Z's music, especially the song Big Pimpin', which was on Volume 3, but he still treated him like an enemy, even in his last studio sessions. His life unfortunately came to an end on February 7th, 2000, after suffering from a massive heart attack caused by his weight problems. He was around 700 pounds heavy at the time he passed, meaning he regained around 100 pounds in less than half a year.
I'd never seen nobody catch a heart attack 27, 28. I was depressed because I felt like, how could we have stopped it?
Jay-Z was in London when Pun passed, and in an interview on the Tim Westwood show, he paid his respects and wanted a moment of silence for him.
We're going to play some big Pun joints as a tribute.
Yeah.
I just want to say how sad we all are here, to hear that, man.
Yeah, that's terrible, man. Let's stop the music for him one time, give him a moment of silence. Rest in peace, man. You know?
For real, man.
Shout out to his family.
His album Yeah Baby came out 2 months later on April 4th and went platinum. Fat Joe went through a depression and had to postpone his 4th studio album, Jealous Ones Still Envy, which was scheduled for a summer 2000 release. The Terror Squad slowly started to fall apart at this point. Cuban Link and Joe went through their own little beef. Pun was the glue that held everything together. He was basically the engine that kept the group moving.
That real depression, every day you come out, there's no sun. And you trying to shake it off, it won't go off. Losing my record label, losing friends. Before then, I never drank liquor. I started drinking liquor like crazy.
Roc-A-Fella was growing steadily, with young and promising talents such as Beanie Sigel, Emil, Freeway, The Diplomats, and of course Kanye West joining the team. On top of that, Jay was still releasing multi-platinum albums every year, so it became more and more difficult for Fat Joe to handle the beef by himself. at least on a rapping level. A minor victory for Fat Joe was Remy Ma turning down Jay-Z's offer to sign to Roc-A-Fella and instead becoming a new member of the Terror Squad. In the year 2001, Jay-Z's beef with Nas reached its climax. Jay dropped The Takeover, which was a vicious diss track aimed at Nas and Mobb Deep. They were battling for the King of New York title, while Fat Joe and the Terror Squad stepped back and solved their own little issues within their camp. When asked in interviews about the Jay and Nas beef, Joe replied that he doesn't want to get involved as he was in no mood to continue the feud after losing Pun. He actually squashed the beef with Jay a day before Ether came out, which was Nas's response record for Jay-Z's Takeover.
Next day, I'm on the radio with K Slade, rest in peace, because my album had came out, and that's the day to Ether.
JAY-Z. What's up? Hey, yo, I know you ain't talking about me, dog. You? What?
I was up there when the battle was going. Who's gonna win? I was cool with Nas's Flojo. So I just gave this man my word that I would never, it's over. And then the next day they do the Ether battle, the shit on the radio.
Put your soul like ether. Teach you the king, you know you. Godson across the belly. I prove you lost already. Brace yourself.
And you know I'm all about that loyalty.
Right.
So I'm throwing ad-libs on the radio. I'm like, yo, I don't know. That was it. At
I remember
that point,
that.
if I was Jay-Z, I would never trust Fat Joe again.
On December 4th, 2001, Fat Joe releases new album Jealous Ones Still Envy, his most successful project to date. Sold over 1 million copies in the US and peaked at number 21 on the US Billboard 200 chart. This is another album that contains subliminal shots at Jay-Z. Starting off with small jabs on track number 3, King of New York, in which he calls himself the rightful owner of the crown.
It's about time the rightful owner claim this crown.
Recorded around the time Jay-Z dropped The Blueprint, on which he called himself the ruler and the King of New York.
And it don't take much for me to kidnap a DJ.
You basically kidnapped the dude for nothing. Because if I was talking about Big Pun, I would have said Big Pun.
Must feel ill to see your boss getting started.
Try to front on their checks till Pun put a gun to your chest.
The next song is called My Lifestyle, on which he takes jabs in the hook. Once again accusing Jay of wanting to live Fat Joe's lifestyle and faking a story about dealing drugs, saying he never saw a brick or a crack house in his life.
I dabbled in crazy way without rap. I was crazy straight. Partner, I'm still spending money from 88. When I was pushing weight back in 88.
When Jay-Z creates this whole drug dealer, drug lord, I'm a drug dealer, I'm a drug lord. These kids, and we gotta do it too, to be like Jay-Z. Not knowing that this is all made up.
Lost 92 bricks, had to fall back. Had A1 credit, got more crack.
Bricks is cocaine.
Yeah.
Cocaine and crack is different. Did you know that? So he said he had to buy more crack. What you said you lost the bricks.
Stay frontin' like you wild out of spray something. Come to find out you ain't never slain nothing.
Then he's inviting Jay and basically any other competitor into a war, once again telling him to bring it on.
Supposed to notice something when you keep fronting. Bring it on if you think you can hang, and if not, then let me do my thing. Yeah, bring it on if you think you can hang, and if not, then let me do my thing. Yeah.
As you can see, he's repeatedly using the phrase "bring it on," cause he knows that Jay will understand that he's talking about him. It's a subliminal message and constant reminder that the offer still stands, and that he's ready for whatever. This song was recorded before they squashed their beef, so he was still in war mode when he wrote this.
All I hear is gangsta. You ain't built like that. You ain't never run the streets. Now I'm revealing your act.
The stereotypical gangster talk. Death threats, I'll do this and that to you if you mess with me. Lines that are not necessarily disses, but more of a warning for his competition to not step over the line and to know their place.
He got his rock cause he didn't pay him.
I think Jay-Z and Pun had beef in the club, and I think they hit Jay-Z with a bottle or some dish. Jay-Z was sleeping, whatever, in the back.
He even responded to one of Jay-Z's disses on the song You Don't Know off the Blueprint album.
This ain't a sewn outfit, Holmes. Holmes is about it. Been clapping them flamers before I came famous. Who you think that was for? I am Hove.
Wear a G on my chest, I don't need that, but damn. This ain't a sewn outfit, Holmes is about it.
Hey yo, you can ask Dapper Dan, who was the man back in 88. Every other week, trick 30 grand.
Partner, I'm still spending money from 88.
What you think this is? Who said they bought Dapper Dan 30 grand? This ain't a sewn outfit, Holmes is about it.
Was clapping them flamers before I became famous. For playing me, y'all shall forever remain nameless.
We got beef for pun, you say my name. I don't play those games. Don't want no people wanna play my game. And if you really want the problem, say my name.
For playing me, y'all shall forever remain nameless.
I hope I convince you to back up. We needn't act up. Believe me, I can easily get your ass touched.
It's crazy out here, man.
So it was like a secret thing on the records, or was it like no? Everybody
was beef.
Try to front on their checks till pun put a gun to your chest.
Got the fifth stuck in your ribs. Don't make me splash your lungs right in front of your kids.
And they came strapped up, and then Jay had the little kids in the building just so wouldn't air it out.
Don't ever give this space, or I'ma have your ass erased.
Jay and Fat Joe definitely caught every line and traded blows, sending shots and then expecting the other side to respond on the next album. He then continues to expose Jay-Z as the quote-unquote fake actor on the song He's Not Real, on which he basically uses Jay-Z's line on the song Do It Again against him.
Any given time's 100 G's in your grill. He's alright, but he's not real.
Always see him in the club frame with the ice cream. Be like, he's alright, but he's not real.
He's alright, but he's not real.
Hey yo, this man corny and they got no skills, cause he's alright, but he's not real. I hate to hurt your feelings, but you never get a deal, cause he's alright, but he's not real. Everybody talking gas, really don't back him. 98% of these rappers is all actors.
Jay-Z heard the disses on the album and saw how Joe's picking Nas's side in their feud, even though they just squashed the beef. Fat Joe was on TV and on radio, cheering for Nas and showing support. He even appeared in the music video for Made You Look a year later, in which Nas is subliminally dissing Jay. And you can see them walk together on the streets, basically showing everybody that Joe got Nas's back, ready to go against anyone.
When he did they shooting, Made You Look. Who's standing behind him?
Mm-hmm.
Nas was my man since day one. So people don't know I used to ride around the Bronx with Nas, Queens with Nas. So when Nas caught beef with Jay-Z, they threw the battery in my back like, we got beef with this man. And now when I got beef, I gotta have 50 niggas with me. This is war.
Fat Joe and Nas were now on the same team, and the streets felt like Jay-Z got destroyed or ethered in the lyrical exchange of words. So the ball was now in his court. It was his turn to respond. People were saying that he's too soft and too scared to go up against a terror squad after what happened in the late 90s with Pun. But back in 2002, when he was working on the sequel for The Blueprint, there was a time when he just wanted to respond to everybody, including Fat Joe.
It's a double album. You did a double album worth of songs in 1 month.
Yeah, but I did more songs than that.
How many songs?
It's going to be on the album. About 40 songs.
In the end, he decided to scrap all verses that were taking shots at Joe, cause he already had his hands full with Mobb Deep and Nas. But there were a few lines that could be interpreted as subliminal shots.
Please, chumps don't tour like us. You on the road 1,000,000 hours, I fly over your bus.
Fat Joe and Nas were both scared of flying after 9/11 happened. They were both touring with a bus instead, which took them maybe not 1,000,000 hours, but of course way longer than just flying with a plane. That way Jay could perform in more cities, even overseas, and travel way faster than his competition, and in the grand scheme of things make more money with touring. So they both took it as a subliminal shot. Jay also decided to record a little freestyle during the Blueprint 2 sessions in which he's dissing Fat Joe, DJ Khaled and the Terror Squad. The track is called He Asked For It, and according to rumors it was supposed to be a full diss record produced by Pharrell that never got finished. In the end he decided to not put it out, at least not in 2002, but it still came out 6 years later in 2008. According to the producer Just Blaze, it was just lying around without anyone knowing what to do with it. So he decided to attach an Uncle Murder verse to it and put it out. Jay-Z then clarified that it wasn't a recent record.
No, that's that's an old freestyle that I did 6-7 years ago. DJ Khaled wasn't even in the picture, so that ain't about nothing. It's all cool. It's no problem there. My man Lenny, and that's like his brother, so we all good.
It's all over there, man.
Yeah.
Jay starts off by responding to Fat Joe's accusations on his previous album about him not being a real gangster.
All I hear is gangster. You ain't built like that.
Yes, gangster, how y'all wanna do this? I clap niggas down for yapping all foolish.
He then reuses Rakim's legendary lines on I Ain't No Joke from 1987 to diss Fat Joe and DJ Khaled.
DJ, if anything he play sound familiar, I wait till he say play him.
You win, your offbeat DJ, if anything he play sound familiar, I wait till Pharrell say play him.
And then for the first time ever, he calls Fat Joe out by name.
So I'ma have to diss who broke, you can get a smack for this.
Now I'ma have to diss you, Joe, you can get a smack for that.
That's what Joe's been waiting for, if you remember.
And if you really want the product, say my name.
Now I'ma have to diss you, Joe, you can get a smack for that. Matter of fact, the gas are blow.
Everybody talking gas, really don't pack her. 98% of these rappers is all actors.
The Toy Squad that gets squashed, boy.
With Toy Squad, he of course meant the Terror Squad, who he's telling that their boss Fat Joe ain't a leader but a follower. And that's why their albums and singles ain't selling, or in other words, their records go copper, triple plastic or double wood. Things that hip-hoppers say to describe a commercial flop.
He's a follower, no, I'm not copping your album or your single, you likely to go copper.
He then plays around with the word copper and briefly touches on Fat Joe's accusations of him not being a real drug dealer.
The coke copper, the quick cake cooker.
Stay frontin' like you wild out of spray something. Come to find out you ain't never slang nothing.
The song didn't come out the year it was recorded, and Fat Joe didn't hear it until it got leaked 6 years later. By the time he heard it, it was already too late to respond. Joe wanted the smoke so badly that he basically begged Jay-Z to finally name drop him on the records, but at the same time he didn't want to look like an asshole who makes peace and then still throws stones the next chance he gets. The year is now 2003. The Terror Squad is now a shadow of its former self. At this point they don't make the same noise on the streets as they used to. Jay-Z on the other hand reached superstardom, planned to end his rapping career with the upcoming project The Black Album, which was his 8th studio album in a row since 1996. He wanted to retire as a rich businessman and hip-hop icon, as the quote-unquote best rapper alive. He already had countless hits, lots of sales, an iconic status, devoted fans, had multiple classics, sold-out stadiums, big business ventures, and unlimited features. Fat Joe wanted all those things for himself, and just like Jay, be successful outside of music. They were both competing for clout in the shoe game. Jay-Z's S. Carter was Reebok's fastest selling shoe of all time, after debuting on April 18th, 2003. Fat Joe, on the other hand, was just inches away from being the first hip-hop artist to have a collaboration with Jordan Brand. Prior to that, he had the already famous Terror Squad exclusive Air Force Ones, sent to Nike by his crew. He met Michael Jordan 6 times. They were coming up with their own designs and everything, but it didn't work out due to the fact that Joe was involved in so many rap beefs that Jordan didn't want to be part of. Joe didn't manage to become a successful businessman like Jay-Z. He was always one step behind him. Not much had happened between the two when things with Nas started going south, until 2003 when the Entertainers Basketball Classic tournament at the Rucker Park took place. Joe was coaching a highly successful basketball team since the mid-90s, and even won 6 championships. He loved the Rucker, even skipped shows and tours to manage and train his team and to watch them play. Lost lots of money just for his hobby alone. And then all of a sudden, the multi-millionaire Jay-Z comes out of nowhere and decides to coach his own team and play at the Rucker.
I think Fat Joe might be steaming in his boots right now, man. Hey, he's not even in our bracket. He got to make the championship game before he even talk to me. That's real talk.
And out of nowhere, here come this guy after I win 5 chips in a row. He wants a team. I'm like, God damn, man, he won everything.
I'm only doing it 1 year. I'm never coming back out there again. I just wanted to come out there and bring, like, LeBron and bring, some of the players that, the people might not have access to.
This year.
I always had the streets, no matter who I had beef with, whoever. If I had beef with 50 Cent, he knew the streets was me. Anybody who had a problem with me, they knew this guy runs the streets. The Ruck is part of the streets.
Right.
That was the streets, summertime.
This, of course, was very frustrating for Joe. He was a little insecure and afraid that Jay would just come in out of nowhere and take away Fat Joe's crown by just using his money and connections to add the best basketball players to his team and win all the games, even though this was Fat Joe's hobby and Jay had a million other things to care about.
And I said, damn, man, this man got all the money, the hottest chick, he the biggest in the game. I got the little street tournament, and the man coming in this shit. And so it was a little bit of jealousy, even though my team was dead ass for real.
Jay was serious competition, a very smart leader and businessman. It's relatively easy for him to learn and become professional in things that he has no experience in, like coaching a basketball team, for example. Both got into the championship, and on August 14th, 2003, their teams were supposed to play against each other. Tens of thousands of people were standing in line for hours on a hot summer's day, just to watch the game. People were looking forward to this game so much that they were standing on top of buildings, fences and bridges, just to get a chance to see it. Cause it was almost impossible to get through the masses. All the seats and spots were taken. Not even the staff or organizers of the events could go in and out without hundreds of people having to make space. The tournament rules allowed both teams to add new players to the game, and Jay-Z added Shaquille O'Neal, LeBron James and Tracy McGrady to his lineup. Fat Joe, on the other hand, added Amare Stoudemire, Yao Ming, Allen Iverson and Chris Webber to his already stacked team.
We had Marbury, we had Carmelo Anthony, AI and Mike Bibby, Al Harrington, we had Zach Randolph on the court, Steph Marbury.
Fat Joe and his team were already on court, standing there waiting for everyone to arrive. On the same day, which was Thursday, August 14th, the infamous New York City blackout happened, which means there was no power, no electricity, no lights. And this affected around 21 million people, not only in New York, but also in the surrounding areas. The city was in chaos, and the outage-related financial losses were estimated at $6 billion. But that didn't hold people back from wanting to see the game at the Rucker Park. Jay-Z and his team were chilling in the professional tour bus, which they didn't even leave. Nobody wanted to come outside until the lights come back. Nobody got to see what players Jay-Z picked for the game. Fat Joe and his team were waiting outside in the heat, while Team Roc-A-Fella was relaxing in the tour bus, probably with air conditioning, cold and expensive drinks and snacks. Just chilling and enjoying life. And even though thousands showed up to the blacktop to watch the championship game, at 6 p.m. the New York City police would not allow the game to go on under the current conditions. So everybody had to leave. The game was cancelled, but Jay-Z and his team went to Hot 97 that night to explain the situation. All of a sudden you hear Jay-Z, OG1, Steve Stout, LeBron James and Shaquille O'Neal on the radio, and they all started to brag, saying they'll take out Fat Joe and his team. And everybody is listening. Fat Joe then called in and threatened Shaq to not play. Both sides went back and forth on the radio.
Jay-Z, OG1, Steve Stout, they went on the radio. And they was talking crazy. So now, forget the Rucker, the whole city, all they could do is listen to the radio. And they talking, yo, we gonna take them out. They was up on the radio talking real reckless. If you don't understand what that means, they was talking like I never heard nobody talk to Fat Joe before in my life. Shaq got on the radio and said he was gonna play. I said, Shaq, I'm gonna break your ankles, man. You ain't coming in that park. I'm gonna fix you.
Fat Joe got very upset and took the game way more seriously than before. I mean, they were already playing for $250,000 and everybody's pride was on the line. But now people thought that things would escalate and that a fight would break out in the middle of the game. And the Terror Squad was kinda known to do that. They were loose cannons. I mean, they're called the Terror Squad for a reason. And both camps had a violent history together. It got physical on numerous occasions. The game was later rescheduled to another day, the following Monday, August 18th. So no game on Thursday, postponed to Monday, 4 days later. When the second game day arrived, Fat Joe showed up with his team to Rucker Park, standing on the court again for 2.5 hours in the summer. 100 degrees Fahrenheit, which is around 37 degrees Celsius, with the crowd looking around and waiting for Jay-Z's team to show up. But Jay didn't come. It was later revealed by his team that Jay was set to go on an overseas vacation together with his girlfriend Beyonce. He already had left the city on Friday, August 15th, but nobody had told Fat Joe and his team about it. So Joe was standing there waiting, basically for nothing, while Jay-Z is once again chilling and enjoying life. I mean, Jay and Beyonce are both megastars and have crazy schedules. He dropped everything, gave up on the game and swallowed his pride to go on a trip that was planned before the first game was supposed to take place. He left his team behind to forfeit. The staff was notified on Monday, the day they were supposed to play, but they still decided to come in case players from both camps show up, assuming that the team can play without Jay being there. So everybody from the hood once again pulled up to see the game. People were once again on fences, on trees, buildings, bridges, on cars, on buses, because there wasn't enough space for everybody. Jay-Z's team bus arrived, but there was no sign of the S. Carter players. Back to Fat Joe on the court, sweating like a pig, yelling and cursing at everybody. Fat Joe's team was already on the court. Some were warming up, getting ready, others were hiding to make a surprise appearance, because they weren't trying to reveal the last-minute additions yet. They were planning to show themselves once Jay-Z's team comes out the bus. Some of Jay-Z's players from the NBA couldn't be there on Monday, so nobody knew how many S. Carter players were actually there that day, or how the team looked. Fat Joe got angrier by the minute, feeling provoked by how Jay's team was making fun of him on Hot 97 and how they're now refusing to play. He then made a statement: "If you don't want to play, then get the hell out of here." He got pissed that nobody from Jay's camp was coming out of their tour bus after waiting for over 2.5 hours drenched in sweat.
Fat Joe made his presence known, which he always does.
2 hours, who the f*** is off, man? So I didn't be ready, and I knew they was and I knew they was scared to come, man. I told y'all.
It was 8 p.m. and there was still no sign of Jay-Z. Joe expected him to make a grand entrance with a helicopter, put on a show and win over the crowds. But that didn't happen. Some of the S. Carter players showed up on the court to signal that the team is ready to play. But then a huge dispute broke out over a coin toss. Jay's team won the coin flip and they picked a certain bench. But Fat Joe wasn't there when it happened, so when he got there he started to complain. "How are you gonna make a coin toss without the coach being present? We waited 2.5 hours for you, and you do this shit without me? We already picked our bench, this coin flip is invalid. You get the other one, first come first served." The people got upset that he's trying to undo the coin toss and take the bench by force, cause he was in control of the whole Rocker Park. All his people were already on court. The terror squad, gang members, street dudes, they had Jay-Z's people outnumbered, and they were afraid that it would come to a fight.
We've been here for an hour and a half. Normally you 15 minutes late, 2 hours, it's a forfeit. We've been waiting for them for 2 years. We defending champs. I don't know, cause they I always knew they was I knew they wasn't coming. That's why.
So they gave in and Fat Joe got to pick his bench. They didn't want to cancel the game because of a petty reason. Thousands of people came to see this event and they didn't want to cancel it again. But in order to start a game, you need to actually be on the court. The majority of Jay-Z's team was still chilling in the tour bus. After a long back and forth between both sides, the team finally decides to come out the bus. People were making space for them to get through, but only the players were allowed to come on the court. The supporting staff, security and the rest of the team wasn't allowed to go there. Fat Joe, on the other hand, had his whole squad on the court. They took the bench they wanted and got to play on their terms. Jay-Z's team either had to get themselves in danger by surrounding themselves with Fat Joe's highly aggressive mob for the entirety of the match, or get back in the tour bus and cancel the game.
I think some violence would have went down if that game would have went down. Because we was on it. We was on it, and and they not punks, they on it too.
Nobody's safety could be guaranteed without having the supporting staff on both sides, so they decided to not play and get back in the bus.
Craig from the EBC told me, yo, it's a forfeit. So it wasn't my fault. As you can see in the videotape, I'm sitting in the middle of the court. I'm ready to play.
People in Fat Joe's camp claimed that Jay-Z didn't show up because he was afraid that he was going to lose. They said he wanted to spare the embarrassment. But Jay-Z had support in the forfeit. His fans were defending him and saying that everybody who had a chance to go on a vacation with Beyonce would do the same. Nobody would care about a basketball game when you can be with Beyonce at a beach. This was the main argument people used in Jay-Z's defense.
To this day, me and Jay-Z have never said hello to each other again after that. So you tell me if he ain't want to win that championship, if it ain't really matter to him.
After the founder of the Rucker declared Fat Joe's team the winner, Jay-Z dropped the Black album, which was supposed to be his final project before retiring. And then in January 2004, he released a song called The Game Is Mine, on which he raps,
But I'm the proud new owner of the Nets. No diploma, no regrets. Don't even talk about no Ruckers, mother.
So instead of talking about Jay-Z's loss during the Rucker game, he wants to talk about his recent investment. He joined a group of investors led by developer Bruce Ratner, who bought the basketball team New Jersey Nets and moved it to Brooklyn. In 2004, the Nets owner accepted the group's bid of $300 million, and the NBA Board of Governors unanimously approved the sale. So Jay-Z is basically flexing on Fat Joe here.
I gotta be honest with y'all, I'm a New York Knicks fan all year, but I got ownership in the Nets, so I'm torn. I'm gonna leave it right there.
Hey, what do you think of That was always Jay-Z's tactic. Defeat all your enemies success-wise in the long run, even if you lose a battle. Fat Joe would then give Jay-Z a few disses on one of his most famous songs ever, Lean Back, a comeback single for the Terror Squad, which came out a year later on June 8, 2004.
They keep telling me to speak about the Rucker. Matter of fact, I don't want to speak about the Rucker. Don't even talk about the Ruckers, mother.
I don't want to talk about the Rucker. We ain't have to win a championship on the biggest record of my career.
Not even Pee Wee Kirkland could imagine this. My team didn't have to play to win the championship.
Man, you don't know how hard I tried, not to turn it into a beef or a confrontation.
He flexes on Jay by saying that he defeated him without even playing. This, for whatever reason, made Jay-Z take the beef more seriously. Seriously, not in the sense of wanting to battle him or looking for lyrical back and forth, but more in the sense of ignoring him, on purpose, and not speaking to him, even when they're in the same room.
And I remember riding in the elevator in Madison Square Garden with Jay-Z, and he ain't say nothing to me. That's when I knew it was bad. This touched the nerve. This was the thing over here.
No speaking.
Yeah, we never talked for years after that.
Jay-Z might have responded in the year 2005 on the remix version of Kanye West's Diamonds from Sierra Leone.
The pressure's on, but guess who ain't gonna crack? Pardon me, I had to laugh at that.
Fat Joe's nickname is Joey Crack, so people thought this was a response to Lean Back. A few months later, on October 27, 2005, Jay and Nas finally squashed their beef, live at Power 105's annual Powerhouse concert. Hov brought Nas on stage and they rapped together. Their beef was finally squashed, but what about the Terror Squad and Roc-A-Fella beef? Fat Joe was Nas's backup for all these years. The reason why he continued to go against Jay was because of Nas. They were both going at Jay together, and now Joe was the only one who was still in war with him, even though Nas was the reason for it. So he felt a little abandoned by him.
Now me and these niggas are feeling a certain way because I was repping you hard. You understand what I'm saying? And I felt abandoned. I felt like, wow, I was front line for it. You look at the videos, Made You Look and all that. I'm standing with the nigga, I'm running around with the, I was like, wow.
Jay-Z avoids Fat Joe for the next decade, and they don't speak a word to each other. In December 2012, Fat Joe pleaded guilty to tax evasion for not paying over $3 million from 2007 to 2010. On June 24, 2013, he was sentenced to 4 months in prison.
So when you in jail, you get to thinking and you get to be like, boom. And then I said, yo, you know what? I've been beefing with for so long. What if I stop beefing with this?
Jay-Z sent Fat Joe a verse for the remix version of All the Way Up with Remy Ma. For this, Fat Joe contacted his good friend Nori to get Memphis Bleek's number. And Nori then called Memphis Bleek to clear the air.
So I tell Jay, yo, I just spoke to Fat Joe. Jay like, say that again? Yeah, I just got off the phone with Fat Joe. He like, are you serious, Bleek? So I'm like, I'm dead serious, man. Like, he want to holler at you. He wants you to do the remix to All the Way Up. I think Jay was like, nah, I ain't gonna front. It is fire. I got a verse for that. He's like, I'm gonna call you back in 10 minutes. Send me his number.
We did the remix, and then it was just like, yo, what's up? Like, you know, I see you making this. We can help you make this. I went to a Michael Jordan party, and out of nowhere, I went to use the bathroom.
I love it. Boy.
And when I came out the bathroom, somebody just jumped on my back and gave me like a big bear hug.
Okay.
And when I turned around, it was Hov.
Yeah.
Wow. That was it. Yeah. That was it.
The two are now very close friends. They hang out and do business together. Fat Joe even has a podcast on Jay-Z's streaming service Tidal, and called Jay-Z the greatest rapper of all time, surprisingly ahead of his old friend Big Pun.
This is the best guy in the world.
Right.
He's my brother.
Yeah, well,
I love him. I played myself. Like if there was one beef I didn't have to have, it was with Jay-Z and them. With everything that happened with us and Roc-A-Fella and all that was Fat Joe's doing, and I played myself, and I was wrong. And you know what? I wasted 10, 15 years. We could have got money with each other.